conference is being recorded.
Hi, this is Russ Tanner from Global Skywatch, and it is August 17th, 2015, and this is Global Skywatch Radio. Please go to globalskywatch.com/live to find out the call-in number or to see archives of this program. Please remember that we're here every Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time. And our job is to talk about the largest crime against humanity in human history. Some people call it chemtrails. Some call it geoengineering. What do you call it? Please call in, make your announcements. I want to hear from you. This show is different than other shows because this is not just a show, but it's a meeting. It's a public meeting place for us to express our opinions, to announce upcoming events, and to let others know what is going on, and to network with each other. The call-in number is 605-562-3140. And you will have to dial an access code after that, and that is 156230. Once again, the access code is 156230. The phone number, 605-562-3140. You can find that phone number at globalskywatch.com. We've had a lot of requests from people who wanted to talk about different subjects. We wanted to get into the minds of those who are spraying. We wanted to get into the heads of those who are doing this. Why are they doing this? What is the point? What it is all for? We also can present evidence of what's going on. I'd like to hear reports from what's going on around the United States and Europe if you're still up over in those time zones, because you're ahead of us time-wise. And I also want to make sure that our audio stream is working. I see people on the chat room having a little bit of a difficult time joining in and listening to the live stream. So let me see if they can connect. If you got into the heads of those who are doing the spraying, what do you think that they would find? What would you find? Of those who are doing, what is the point? What is the purpose? Why spray? Is it for weather control? Is it for population control? Is it to project a hologram in the sky to simulate the second coming of a Messiah, to fool the public into believing? What do you believe? How do you feel about it? And I'd like to hear from you. I see that we have some callers on the line. If you're on the line and you'd like to talk, I want to start out with our callers because this is, first and foremost, a public meeting. Anyone online who'd like to talk, speak up now, please. Love to hear from you. Who do we have on the line?
Gary.
Can hear somebody there.
This is Gary from Tampa.
Gary, how you doing? Gary from Tampa. What's going on down in Tampa?
Getting a lot of rain.
Getting a lot of rain? Sorry, Gary, we're having some trouble with your audio. I wonder, try again. Let's see if we can get you to come through more clearly. Go ahead. Gary, are you there? I think we're having some trouble with audio from Gary. But, Gary, if you join back... Oh, there you are. Can you hear us okay?
Does it sound better?
Oh, that's a whole lot better. Whole lot better.
I had it on Bluetooth. I had it, my Bluetooth on.
Yeah.
I was listening, so I don't have to have the phone by my head all the time. I put it on the side. We're getting a lot of rain here. It's calming down now. Earlier was like rain, downpours and street flooding. So we're still getting that flooding, engineered rain that that they're like engineering off the coast of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
To our south, we had like a guy posted on Facebook that south of us, like Lee County, where Lee County is, south of Tampa.
Oh yeah.
He's saying there was massive flooding, kind of like what we had. And I posted on Facebook that we had like 3 weeks of rain.
You've had, so 3 weeks of rain. So what's happening now? You still there?
That was a couple. That was about a couple of weeks ago that we had that 3 weeks of rain. Remember that flooding?
Yeah, you had massive flooding down there. Even in my old tropping ground in Port Richey area, up there north of Tampa too. I heard about it. Yeah.
Yeah, at one point right there in Newport Richey, had 3 inches of rain, and in 1 hour or per hour, it was raining a lot.
Right. Right.
And off the coast, you know how Dane says they're trying to keep storms from forming there on the Gulf of Mexico?
Yeah.
Looks like they're engineering like a trough. I guess they call it a trough or tropical moisture, and it looked like just like an eye just sitting there, and it didn't even move. It was a couple of weeks ago. It was stationary, like right off the coast of Tampa, and it looked like it was just sitting right off Tampa. When I called the Air Force, I said, we're having dry conditions here. I mean, what's going on? It's not typical Florida. And then he said, it's going to rain. And then it looked like he knew the forecast more than the weatherman, because he said it was going to rain, and actually rained for 3 weeks. And there was a lot of flooding. So I'm sure they know. I'm sure McDill knows what's going on, even though they say they don't.
So does this look to you like it's all engineered? Is that what you're kind of thinking?
Yeah. But in parts of Florida, it was having extreme drought. Eastern Florida, I even heard Puerto Rico is under extreme drought, and that's very unusual. Have you ever heard of having drought during El Nino years? I've never heard of that before. Is that like something new?
Well, I tell you, I think everything is new. What they're doing is so new, so much damage. I mean, we talk about a lot of times hypernucleation. They hypernucleate. They put too many particulates in the air off the coast of California. The air comes on and it holds more moisture. It's not able to actually turn into precipitation because the nucleated particles cannot, there's not enough moisture to form around all of these particulates. So they can't turn to rain and actually fall. So these particulates actually assist in the carrying of this moisture to the Midwest. And of course, the last couple of years we've had disastrous flooding and horrible weather in the Midwest. And we have to ask ourselves, where did that come from? What is all that about, and why did that happen? So it's very interesting to see the hypernucleation that goes on there in the weather control scenario that they have and the disasters that they've caused. So it's hard for me not to believe.
That nucleation is actually migrating the rain elsewhere.
Right, exactly. If you put too many particulates in the air, too many condensation nuclei, which are where the small particulates, then the rain will get carried. The moisture will not turn into precipitation and will fall elsewhere. It'll continue to carry more moisture. Essentially, the atmosphere will hold the moisture rather than drop it as precipitation. You have to have the right number of condensation nuclei in order to have a storm form. So this is one of the techniques they use to keep that moisture out of California and to carry that into the Midwest.
Well, have you noticed everywhere they seem to be doing geoengineering, it seems like it's a disaster. It's just either drought or flood. That's what they stated in the meeting before they started geoengineering. They will have droughts and floods. I'm starting to notice that. I mean, they're trying to say it's Fukushima, but I've seen them doing this way before that, so it can't be that. I don't think it's Fukushima is the reason why they're like destroying the rain off California. I've heard stories about that, but I think if they're trying to make it rain, and they can make it rain in places, why can't they make it rain in California? They seem to not. They seem to be like they're punishing California,
Yeah, well, that's one of the things we really have to ask ourselves is that we know that weather control is very mature. I mean, they were controlling, Livingston was actually controlling the weather in the 60s. They could steer hurricanes, they could dissipate hurricanes, they could cause storms. This was in the 60s, 1964 and around and about there. By the 70s, they perfected the technologies. By the 80s, they had it down to an art. Now, 30 years later, where are we? I believe they have the systems installed, controlled, fully functional. We see the weather anomalies. We see the radar anomalies that have been popularized by people like DutchSense that show this weather control technology in use. These are not anomalies that I've seen in the past as somebody who would pay attention to details and see things like this. I have not seen these anomalies take place before on weather maps. The beams coming out of locations where there were known transmitters. So something is definitely happening, and the weather patterns, the spraying, and the anomalies we see off California, the hypernucleation, that all coincides with the California drought. You know, this is all happening. There doesn't have to be a drought. There doesn't have to be terrible flooding. If there was naturally occurring flooding in the Midwest, they could hypernucleate the air and move the moisture away. If there was not enough precipitation in California, they could nucleate the air and induce storms and rain if they wanted to. But they're not doing this. And what this is evidence of intentional disaster. Is it not? What do you think?
Well, I think they're cashing in on insurance, you know. And, you know, to me it's wrong, but I'm sure they're cashing in on weather disaster insurance, which is fraud. I mean, that you know, anywhere where it's flooding or drought, I'm sure there's someone making money. You know. Right.
I hear you. You know, the thing I want to say to those who are calling in and you're having some problems with the phone, it's unfortunate that I'm using a free phone service right now to do this, and I guess it's just not reliable. We had problems last week. Or maybe it's something else going on. But please keep trying, because we do have plenty of open slots in the phone line, so I don't know why you're getting busy signals or why it's going dead, but please keep trying. And if it continues not to work, let me know, and I'll look for another solution so we can have more reliability in the future. I do want to hear what you all have to say, so please call in. Let me give the number real quick, 605
Thank you,
yeah, hang in there, Gary. Stay with us. 605-562-3140, and the access code is 156230. All right, Gary, any other news for us? What's happening?
September 14th, there's going to be a geoengineering protest on the east side of Florida. I won't be able to make it, but the person who made... I'm sorry. Did you say something?
No, go ahead. September 25th, this is what we want. We need announcements. What's happening? What upcoming events do we need to know about? So go ahead.
Okay.
September 25th, is it?
Yeah. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try to stay on. I'm gonna get the event and post it there on. Can I put it on Global Skywatch Facebook page?
Sure, absolutely. And also for those listening, I would love you to put your events on the Global Events calendar if you're looking at the screen, because this is a video live stream. Check your screen out and let me show you that. Go to globalskywatch.com, and up here you'll see the Global Events calendar right here. Click on it, and it brings you to, of course, the Global Events calendar. And you can post your event in here. If you are not sure how to do it, just click on the how to create a calendar event link right here, and there's a video showing you how to do it. So please, we have one nice repository where people can put upcoming events right here, and you can find the event you're looking for. So yes, you can post it on the Facebook page, and you can email it to me, and I'll post it here on our Global Events calendar so it's here.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Excellent, Gary. I appreciate that.
It's going to be for September 14th, and the lady that organized the Orlando protest on April 25th, Rachel, she's the one organizing this one too. And she was hoping there will be. She said she'll be happy if just one person showed up. She doesn't want to be alone. And I told her I have some car issues, You know, I had to have my car towed in twice this month, so I won't be able to go. I had to do 2 different repairs in 2 months because, you know, I don't have the money. So I got to do 2 different repairs, so I got to do one at a time. So I won't even, I thought I'll probably be able to go to anything in October, you know, October or November. But she was hoping more people would show up. She said one time she posted something on Facebook, and 100 people say they're going, and then when the show, the date, approached, the global march came up, only 10 people showed up. That was a different event. And the last event I was there, it was over 20 people. So I mean, it's increasing, but I'm hoping we can get 100 people.
Yeah, I'm hoping too. What's the plan? Are they going to walk from one location to another? Are they going to stand in a particular location? What is the overall plan? Do you know?
Oh, I gotta go read it. I'm gonna copy and paste it on your that way you can see it. I read it real quick. I just saw it and I posted. I'm sorry I couldn't go this time. She knows I'm having car issues. She's pretty nice. She knows I would go because I look forward to it. And the car issues. And that's it's clear. That's almost it's going to be near. I think it's near the coast, near Orlando. It's going to be even further than Orlando. So it would be probably close to 80 or 90 miles from me. So it's even further. So I wouldn't be able to go do that because I have the car insurance.
Right.
She said that she will. I think she's going to hold. She said she's got a lot of signs. All people got to do is just hold their signs up, and she wants people to show up. I'm trying to get people more, encourage them to want to show up at these protests, not just mention it on Facebook and give a like. You got to, show up in person. I mean, that was my first protest, and I showed up because I said I was going to,
Mm-hmm.
So, I didn't say I'm going to show up and then didn't show up. People got to, if they're going to give 100 likes or 100 I'm going, on the Facebook.
Yeah.
They need,
Yeah, exactly. If people say they're going to go to an event, we really want them to show up. And even if you didn't say you can go, and you can go,
really
please go.
Fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not scary. It's fun, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It was kind of like going to, for me, it was kind of like a roller coaster ride. Because the first time I showed up, like being on the roller coaster, the first one, it looked scary. I want to back out of it.
Yep.
But, then I said, I just pushed myself to go. And I said, well, that's what I did with the geoengineer. I'm just going to go do it. I'm going to, let me see, my first one. I first time going there, like I walked, I'm looking for the table. I go across the park, and I'm looking for the geoengineering signs and stuff with people. And I saw it, and I went all the way around. When I saw it, I did a V shape, like I went around the whole, and came from behind because I was kind of shy in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I kind of like broke out of my shyness and just showed up, It's not really hard, people just...
Well, that's why it's good to encourage people to go. I mean, it feels great to go to one of these events. It's empowering. You wake people up. We're doing what we need to do because that's what we need to do right now is we need to wake the public up. So that's what we need.
Look at Reading.
Yeah, look at Reading. What happened at Reading? It was full, wasn't it?
1,000 people. Was it 1,000 people?
1,000 people in Reading, California. Do you know anything about an event? Or if you do and you're calling in, please call us more about the Reading event. We'd like to hear. But go ahead. What do you know about, Gary?
Well, actually, I'm waiting for, Karen Scott.
Yep.
I think she did go. And she says as soon as they have the YouTube video, the radio, they're still editing. As soon as they're finished, they're going to upload it on YouTube, and she will let me know.
Okay.
I'm hoping she'll post it. Or Dane will post it, too.
Okay.
Maybe we can ask Dane tomorrow. when it's going to be ready.
Yeah, good. Yeah, you can join us. Let me just mention that Geoengineering Watch Radio. I co-host that with Dane Wigington on Tuesday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Just go to, the easiest way to find that is go to globalskywatch.com/GWR for Geoengineering Watch Radio, globalskywatch.com/GWR. All right, Gary, I appreciate that. Let me see if somebody else might have more information or has any other announcements for us, but please feel free to stick with us and we'll chat some more later. How's that?
Okay, I'll hang on.
All right, great. Awesome, Gary. Anybody else on the line want to chat? I see we have more callers here. If you want to chat, just speak up because your mic is live.
Hey, Russ. This is Kathy from Oregon.
Kathy, how are you doing?
I'm good, and I went to the Geoengineering Symposium.
Talk to us. Tell us what happened.
Do you know how awesome it is to be amidst 1,000 people who are like-minded? And the energy was just amazing. And
tell us all about it.
It was exciting. It was thrilling. And even though I didn't get to meet Dane in person and shake his hand, I was in a distance where I could actually see his eyes. And, you know, you get all these trolls and debunkers and disinfo people on your site, and they are all trying to tell lies. You know, they say bad things about Dane, that, you know, they mock people. But I have to tell you that if the eyes are truly the mirror to the soul, and if you can look in people's eyes and see that they are telling the truth, and this truth that we are looking at is amazing. It is something that is so overwhelming that there were times that I was actually moved to tears during this symposium. And you're listening to these learned people who are from forestry, they're from legal, there were people of, you know, in cross sections, and you're looking at them and they're telling the truth. What we are up against is something that we cannot falter. We must keep going. We must speak louder. There was toward the end of the conference, when it was the Q&A section, you know, people would get up and ask questions, and there was one person that asked, "How much time do we have?" And it was interesting because there was like this dead silence. There was 1,000 people, and it was silent. And you could tell that nobody really wanted to be the one to say it. But Dane finally got on and said, Northern Hemisphere 2030, Southern Hemisphere 2040. And there's part of me that sat back and thought, oh, well, 2030, that's 2030. That's a long way. Oh, no, it's 2015 now. And 15 years, you know, is not very far.
Now, let me ask you, when you say, how long do we have, what does that mean? How long until what?
Well, global collapse, eco-collapse.
Mm-hmm. And what's it going to be like? What happens in global collapse? Do you know? Did they talk about that?
He didn't get specific, but the way I look at it is the 15 years leading up to this 2030, and we're already seeing species collapse. We're already seeing water wars. We're already seeing drought and flooding and all the things that they have manipulated. We're already seeing those things. And I think it's only going to escalate in the next 15 years. And when you look at people who have, you know, the prophets, people have prophesized, and I'm not talking necessarily, you know, all Christian prophets. You know, it spans cultures that they talk about prophecy. You know, the seas running red. Well, they already are. You know, they talk about lights in the skies. They talk about, you know, all these things. They talk about fighting for food. They talk about, you know, some religions, some philosophies believe that everybody should be storing food. Well, I don't think that a year's supply of food is going to get us through this. So I think what is going to happen is it's going to escalate over this next 15 years, unless we stop it.
Yes, it is definitely going to escalate over the next 15 years. In fact, right now, Kathy, what I'm seeing is when I go outside, when I come home at night and see my front light in front of my house, there's 10% of the number of insects that used to be there in comparison to just a few years ago. Just a few years ago. The insects are dying off. I'm hearing this from all over. This is happening. That's something I'm seeing on the ground. I will talk about, I saw the bee collapse happen. I saw a ladybug colony collapse. It was all related to the spraying. I believe I'll get into this a little bit later. I want to get into some intense conversation tonight if you all want it. I need to know if you want to talk about these subjects, and I appreciate you bringing up the stuff about prophets that have talked about the future, because this is some of my favorite stuff. When you get into this, it actually opens some eyes and people start listening, and they need to, because this is compelling. But what else, Kathy? What else?
The guy from the retired forestry service, he talked about doing a fish study where the fish had literally no insects in their stomachs. So when you have, from the bottom up, from the tiniest microbes on up to the largest animals in the chain, when fish don't have food in their stomachs, they're going to starve and die. Well, they have no food because there are no insects. And so pretty soon the things that eat the fish, Dane mentioned that within 5 years we're not going to be eating fish from the ocean anymore.
Yeah.
Not to mention not only the species collapse in the ocean, but we're also talking about Fukushima basically is going to continue to pollute the ocean. They can't stop it.
Yeah.
And he mentioned that there are something like 60 more nuclear reactors on the drawing boards. They can't control the ones they've got. This power-hungry society that we live in, it frustrates me because I look at it as if we would just all cut back. If we just all cut back. But that's not on the agenda. And you mentioned getting into the who's behind it. And they touched on that. They touched on the government not being our friend, that they're not out for our best interests. And I firmly believe, from a personal standpoint, that our representatives are completely bought and paid for. Maybe not all, but I believe that they are not afraid of us unless we all get together and form a mass.
That's right.
And then they will.
Yeah, they serve who they fear. And if they fear the public, they will serve the public. And if they serve... Oh, we're getting some feedback here. All right, you still there, Kathy?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. If they fear the public, they serve the public. If they fear those who are controlling them, that's who they will serve. That's who they will carry out. And that's the thing. That's why the public has to keep the fire under the feet of the politician. Otherwise, they become corrupt. Historical fact, always happened. It's already happened here again, and it's up to us to fix it. And you're right. We have to organize. We have to organize and confront this directly. What else is on your mind? The lawyer that was speaking, there were two of them actually. They were pretty learned, very awesome. They talked about, specifically in California, the Freedom of Information Act. And there is also a federal Freedom of Information Act, and I'm researching Oregon. I haven't gotten there yet. But basically, if you legally write in and ask a question of your representatives, they are compelled by law within 10 days to answer your question. And are there any teeth if they don't do that? Is there anything that enforces that? Do you know? There's
a legal process, and I think that's what they were talking about. This is honestly the first I've heard of it, so it's fairly new to me. I've heard about the Freedom of Information Act, but it's not something that I've thought of being a part of a weapon to use. But within 10 days, they made it sound like the repercussions for not answering you within 10 days were pretty strict. And then Dane also mentioned that, you know, it is illegal in the United States to spray us or experiment on us without our knowledge. And that's exactly what they've been doing, because they continue to deny that they are engineering the stratosphere with toxic chemicals. But apparently that can be overridden if there's a direct order from the president. And in each individual state, the governor needs to be notified. So what that's saying is our president does know, our governors do know, our representatives do know, and that form letter that they send you every time you write in and talk about that bull about contrails is part of their speech that they're supposed to give us. And I say it's time that has to end.
Absolutely. I have a screenshot if you're looking at the video feed right now. If you want to find the video feed, go to globalskywatch.com/live, and you can find the video feed link there. If you're watching it right now, I have the page up on our website. U.S. law allows testing of chemicals and biological agents on civilian population. If you're listening to this live stream right now and you do not know about this, this is Public Law 185. Actually, I'm drawing a blank now. I had this memorized for the longest time. 10585 from November 18th, 1997. Isn't it interesting how it coincides with the vast increasing in spraying, which happened between 1995 and 2000. And I'll read this to everybody who wants, real quick. Kathy, Public Law 10585, Section 1078, prohibited activities. The Secretary of Defense may not conduct, directly or by contract, any test or experiment involving the use of a chemical agent or biological agent on a civilian population, or any other testing of a chemical agent or biological agent on human subjects. Sounds great so far. Section B, exceptions. Subject to subsection C, which we'll get to in a minute, D and E, the prohibition in subsection A, which the prohibition means the Secretary of Defense may not conduct testing biological agents on human subjects, so on, the stuff we just read, does not apply. This prohibition does not apply to a test or experiment carried out for any of the following purposes. So, here are the ways that you can do chemical or biological testing on the population. These are allowed. The prohibition in Section A does not apply if you're doing it for any of these purposes. You just have to say, this is the reason we're doing it, and then presto, it's okay. Reason number one, any peaceful purpose that is related to a medical, therapeutic, pharmaceutical, agricultural, industrial, or research activity. Number two, any purpose that is directly related to protection against toxic chemicals or biological weapons and agents. Number three, any law enforcement purpose, including any purpose related to riot control. That pretty much covers everything. In other words, the prohibition here in Section A, stating that the Secretary of Defense may not conduct these operations on human subjects, does not apply if it's for any of these purposes, which covers just about anything. Then let me delve one step deeper. It does say that in subsection C that there must be informed consent. The problem with this, and this is not legal advice, this is when you get into the advanced research about what a public law really is. Once you view it as governed by the Uniform Commercial Code, because it's part of a commercial contract, just like a traffic ticket is. You know, they're taking money. There's an exchange of money taking place. then what does informed consent mean? Under UCC, informed consent means we published it. You've been informed. If you do not object legally and properly, you have consented. It's that simple. So please go to the Global Skywatch website right here. Click on the Global Skywatch Forum and Community right here. And then look down in this scrollable, horizontal scrollable section of articles, and right there is U.S. law allows chemical testing on civilians, and you'll find this article. Sorry to interrupt you, Kathy. Go ahead. What else you got to say?
Well, that was pretty, wow. You know, so what do they find it that it's under the agriculture section? So causing a drought is good for agriculture, you know? It sounds like all those purposes that they mean to spray us have everything to do with it being beneficial.
Well, it sounds...
And what they've done is use it as a weapon.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly... I mean, the chemicals that there must be... I know personally that what they're spraying causes my health to deteriorate rapidly. And other people around me, there is no beneficial effect. It affects people whether they can smell it or taste it like I can or not. People are suffering from it because I smell and taste a horrible plume, and then the people around me get headaches, backaches, they can't think straight, they all get tired, children start fighting. I have seen this for years now. It's always like this. So no benefit here to spraying toxic substances on the public, obviously. But they say for any peaceful purpose that is related to medical, therapeutic, pharmaceutical. And see, this is just a stated reason. If you look under Section B, the exceptions, they say the prohibition in Section A, that means the Secretary of Defense may not spray the public, does not apply to a test or experiment carried out for any of the following purposes. What does that mean? That means they can say, oh, well, we're going to spray them for the purpose of research activity. There it is right there, research activity. So it's okay. It's permissible under this law 105/85.
Well,
so,
and that's exactly what they're doing. If places like NOAA are actually testing air samples for heavy metals, we know that that's all part of the experiment. You know, there's a cause and effect in any experiment. You know, you do something and you look for the effect.
yes.
And they're doing it. It's just whether or not we can get the actual truthful information. And then we know this is happening over the entire planet. So we also know that it's bigger than our government. It's just right now, we citizens of the United States or the citizens of Canada or any other individual country where they're doing the spraying, it is with the okay of the leadership of that country. So who's pulling their strings?
That's a very good point, Kathy. And here's the point that I make to everybody all the time is I want you to understand that the people who are pulling the strings are coordinated in all the countries. And I see that Kim's with us. I've never tried to take a Skype call on this system as it is set up, the audio system, but I'll try to get you, hopefully. So stay on for a second there, Kim. The countries, the governments of all the countries of the world are controlled by the same group of people. And when you say this to some people out in public, they think you're a conspiracy theorist. They think you're making this stuff up or because you're paranoid or something like that. Watch the video Corporation Nation. People can look it up on YouTube and watch this. You can watch another video called All Wars Are Bankers' Wars. These things will help to pull the strings together. The Creature from Jekyll Island, The Unseen Hand, Ralph Epperson. Strongly encourage people to check this out because these are the types of media that will teach the public that the countries of the world have been taken over. And you talked earlier about prophecies, people told prophecies. This stuff has been foretold. We knew this would happen. We've seen all the presidents mention the term New World Order. Well, what is the New World Order? I'd love to get into that in a couple minutes. I know people who have spoken with me and given me feedback love to talk about this kind of stuff. We can get in all kinds of that stuff because it profoundly helps people understand what's going on. But the countries of the world all work together, even during the Cold War. What was the Cold War? The Cold War was justification for military spending, so those people who are in power, the industrialists, can line their pockets because they receive, their corporations receive the benefits of military spending. They receive the big military contracts. So you've got to have an enemy. So Russia was the enemy. But in the meantime, while Russia was so-called being called our enemy, we were going to space with them. We were doing research. We were exchanging technology and research with Russia. They were working very closely together, two countries. Governments were working very closely together with each other. Well, how do you do that when your country's in the middle of a Cold War? And most Americans don't think about this because that doesn't fit the scenario of two countries being involved in a Cold War. Go ahead, Kathy.
Yeah, I was just, most Americans don't think like this. Interestingly, my father was raised in Nazi Germany. He was born in the United States and went back to Germany. He must have been 8 or 9 years old. My grandparents were both immigrants, met over here, and then decided before the Second World War that Germany was a better place to raise their kids. Well, we know how that ended up. But so I've been raised with a certain sense of awareness because my father, growing up in a situation like that, had to notice things. And so I've been schooled from a very early age. That person's saying. They're not saying that, they're saying this. And basically the American public has been completely hoodwinked by not only commercial television, but news sources and their own representatives. And they fall for it.
Yes, they have. They absolutely have. The people, I think the reason is because in their own literature, in the industrialist own literature that talk about the controlling of the public, the process of controlling the public, they talk about that people want to be controlled. You create problems that make people afraid, and that fear is used to control people. And so people will very quickly adopt or want a government to protect them, and they'll just do that themselves without any. They'll bring that upon themselves very quickly and efficiently without any external coercion a lot of times. So it's all about fear. It's about control, and I hope people would take time to watch those videos. What else, Kathy?
I would just encourage people to keep speaking, keep getting louder. I mentioned on a post that I put on the site that I'm done emailing these people. I'm in the process of working up letters, registered letters, to send to these people. They need to know. And now that I've actually met some of the Oregon people at the symposium, I'm hoping that I can start networking better. And that's the other thing they want. They want us to be fractionated. They don't want us to speak as one voice. And so I'm hoping to get more involved on a local level with the people I've met. And we just got to keep talking. We got to keep doing it. People are afraid. And, my son said to me one day, "Mom, aren't you afraid you're going to get killed?" Well, no. No, I'm not. And that's the thing they want us to fear. Now, watch them send, whatever happens to me. If I'm not here next week, then we'll know that they heard this.
And it's not suicide, right? It's not suicide.
No. You know what? I have absolutely nothing on this earth to commit suicide over. So if I suddenly come up as a suicide, not true. So we just need to keep speaking. And that's the encouragement that I'm going to give tonight is just keep it up. Keep the pressure up. Reply to the EPA, the comments, after the August 11th. Keep talking to your representatives. Keep doing it.
Yes.
They can't keep ignoring it. And all we need to do is put a chink, just a chink in the armor.
Yeah. Absolutely, and it's our job to do this. It's not going to get better. Let me just be very straight with everybody, because a lot of people out there are like, oh, there's hope, and the government's going to shut down, and I heard all this stuff about spraying is going to end in September 2015, and you see all these posts. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. This is not going to happen automatically. It has been said that one of the most damaging things that you can experience, one of the most damaging things is false hope, because it keeps you apathetic. It keeps you doing nothing. And I don't want anybody to have false hope, because what lies in our future is not pretty. It is not bright. It is disaster. It is what a lot of people call biblical. The game is over, and the time is running short. So,
well, and that's the thing. I have a new age lean to myself. I've been trained as a Reiki master. I understand surrounding myself with white light. I totally get that. But everything intuitive inside myself says that surround yourself in your white light, make yourself as powerful as you can, but it's boots on the ground that are going to do it.
That is very important that you said that, because I've been trying to tell people that for a long time, and Dane often brings that up as well, is that a lot of people like to do visualization, a lot of people like to do all of these exercises that they hope is going to make a change. But I'm going to tell you, it's what you just said. Boots on the ground, making the phone calls, applying the political pressure, spreading the word, getting out there with signs, and waking the people up. We need numbers. It's not going to happen automatically. It's not going to happen because you will it to happen. And this is one thing that your opponents would love for you to believe, is that you can get a bunch of people together, and I don't mean to offend anybody by saying this, but I'm just going to lay it out on the line. You can get a bunch of people together and will for something to happen. Something big like this. It's not going to solve this problem. It's going to be, like you said, Kathy, boots on the ground. We're going to have to do the work. What do you think?
And we can't hide behind each other. I'm going to be out there, and I'm going to be very vocal. I'm going to post things, but everybody needs to do it themselves. You can't stand behind the strong person and let them do all the work. The strong people need help. They need, for every one letter I write, everyone else needs to write a letter too. It doesn't have to be an epic. It doesn't have to be the most amazing, wordy thing on earth. They just need to tell the rep, we're aware, we know.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing. Don't wait for the other person to do it.
Absolutely.
Take the initiative, write the letter. It doesn't hurt.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's very empowering to get out with a group of people and wake up people on the street as well. Write the letter. Make the phone call. You have the power. Your government serves you. Most people don't realize your government is supposed to be a contractor. Just like you bring a contractor in your house and have them do some tile work or some plumbing for you, the government is a contractor. The Constitution is the contract. And, of course, we could get into that discussion. That's a whole other can of worms. But the bottom line is, don't be afraid of these people. These people are supposed to serve the public interest. And if they're feeding you lies about contrails, which is a lie, they are not contrails, then they are not serving the public interest. They are aiding and abetting, either knowingly or unknowingly, the largest crime against humanity in human history.
I mean, if we channel anything, we need to channel the 60s. People back then knew how to protest. And somehow we've lost that drive to protest. And I think part of it is the programming, and part of it is, I honestly think, what they're spraying. And part of it is that the American people have not had anything difficult or hard.
Yeah. Yeah, and people get lazy and apathetic. Plus, we've had fluoride and mercury and now all kinds of other stuff, and that all makes it even all the much harder. So,
yeah, I'd really like to. I'm going to sign off because I've actually got a guest here, a friend from California, and she's in there patiently waiting for me. But I would really, honestly, like to hear more about the New World Order and the spiritual leaning of this, because it's not. There's diabolical things here.
Yeah, would you? I mean, the most positive feedback I ever got from this show is when we got into the heads of those who are doing this. Why are they doing that? Everybody has theories. Most of them are watered down. But if you understand what's actually in their heads, and it's not simple because there are different levels. People at the very top know exactly what they're doing. As you move down level by level, it's watered down and changed. And when you understand that, you understand why it's complicated. There is no single belief at all the levels. The levels change as you go down, but they all achieve the same goal. And this is why it's brilliant. This is how they've been able to pull so many people at lower levels in, because all they have to do is draw these people into an organization that appeals to them emotionally, and then they can recruit them. And that's how this works. And we've gotten into that before, but I'd love to get that in. So, yeah, I'd love to talk about that, Kathy. Thank you for all the input, Kathy. Thank you.
I think that's the link that's missing because people, they can't fathom that, Joe Blow that works for, XYZ Power Company would actually be part of this. And I think it's pretty insidious. And like you said, there's so many levels. And I think getting into their heads is what we need right now. We need to know what the agenda is, and we need to know, because when you understand your enemy, you can better form a plan.
Absolutely. Know your enemy. You have to understand who you're dealing with and why they're doing what they're doing. That's a very good point. Kathy, can I have you answer one question? Because John is on the chat room. He's got a very good question. I think you'd be really well suited to answer this. He said, how do I get my city's attention? Most everyone is blind and or quiet about this issue. 3 city leaders I contacted did nothing other than one said the chemtrails was smoke from Canadian forest fires. So how does he get his city's attention? What does he do?
Well, I tried contacting my city council, and actually Colleen Roberts, one of the city council people, answered me back, and I actually got a very nice email back from her. And she recognized that, yes, I understand what you're talking about, but it's not in our jurisdiction. So on the city level, I think it's more difficult. What Dane is doing down in Reading is, I believe he's getting ready to file lawsuits against the city managers down there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. There's no good thing. I would just keep hammering them. They're going to be part of my ground-up kind of plan. I'm going to go from local to, from county to state to federal, all my representatives, and the governor, who's never returned not one of my emails.
Yeah.
And she's supposed to be this broad-minded, open-minded person, and she doesn't even bother to answer back and say, not my job.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? Yeah, it's amazing. I've talked to the people, the Bureau of Air Quality in Maine, and the final conversation with them, the contact basically said, we don't have the funding to deal with this issue. And that was all I could. I never got.
That's why I'm trying to win
the
lottery. When I win the lottery, there's going to be a lot of money put into this because, dear God, do you hear that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I hear you. I'll tell you, yes.
If I were like one of the 1%ers, I wouldn't have the same philosophy they have. I couldn't do this to people. I think that's what separates them and us.
Well, that's the clever thing is when people get to the bottom of this, I'm going to say this boldly because I'd love to get in this later, and you can call in and tell me if you want me to get in this because this is one of my favorite areas, is this is actually a spiritual battle. And what I mean by that is these people actually have beliefs that they believe they are channeling. And I'm not making this up. This comes directly from whistleblowers who have been there. And I would love to talk about it. If you want to talk about this, call in. Kathy, thank you for all your input. I love when you call in. You're so informative and level-headed. It's great to hear from you.
Well, thank you. And, yeah, I'd really like to hear that. So have a good rest of the show. I'll be listening. And everybody out there, get busy.
Yes, please get busy. Thank you, Kathy. All right, we've got it's always great to hear from Kathy. And, John, to add, we're getting a little background noise. If you have background noise, please try to keep your mic quiet or I'll have to mute you when you call in. John, I want to help answer your question a little bit. What do you do? How do you get the city's attention? I'll tell you how to get the city's attention. Our first step is to get people involved. That is the very first step. We have to get enough people involved that the city officials go, uh-oh, what is this all about? Because when you're 5 people standing out there, they're going, yeah, whatever those lunatics are doing, we're not worried about it, and we're not going to pay attention. When you have 1,000 or 5,000 people going to a rally, then they start to get worried and say, wow, we're actually going to have to do something now. It's been my experience with city officials, or state officials even, that, and I don't mean to put you down. I mean, if you're a state official and you really care about what you're doing, great. But my experience has been this. You know, you're the exception of the rule if you really care and you're really active, and there's some out there. But my experience has been this, is that they don't do any more work than they have to. And if there's only a few people involved in this issue, they won't lift a finger. There has to be enough people where they have accountability, they get to get nervous. That's when they start to do something. So job number 1, wake people up. And I don't care if you put a bumper sticker on your car, a sign in your yard. I have both. Every car in my driveway has a bumper sticker on it. I've got a sign out front, which has been out there for years. Go stand on get a few friends and stand on a busy highway with a sign. And reach thousands of people. You don't have to talk to them. You don't have to shake hands with anybody. You don't have to hand out flyers. Just hold a sign with a website on it. That's memorable. And if you want questions, help, materials, contact me. I'll be happy to help you. I want to take some more callers. If you want to get into the deep spiritual aspects, if you want to get into health detox, tell me what you want to talk about. Callers on the line. Anyone who wants to speak up, and I'll take the one who's been holding the longest first. Go ahead.
Hey, Russ. It's Seth.
Hey, Seth?
Yeah.
Hey, how are you doing?
Good. I've been holding for 43 minutes, so I don't know if I've been holding the longest.
You're right, 43 minutes and 5 seconds. So, so tell me, what's on your mind?
Well, I've got a whole laundry list of things. I'm going to try to get to them quick and just trying to be fair to other callers. A couple episodes ago, we talked about the HAARP report guy, I discussed his theory that they're using HAARP to squash storms in the Pacific by superheating the D layer of the ionosphere at daybreak, which causes the air to push down as it's superheated on top of the storm, stopping the rotation, and then the storm is basically blown apart and disintegrates. Now, the part that I that I left off of that is that this process is destroying, according to him, now, I don't know, it's hard for me to tell, but I'm just relaying the story, which seems pretty plausible to me. It's destroying the ozone where they do this, and then as the UV light blasts the sea under the destroyed, in the area where the ozone's been destroyed, killing all the sea life, the zooplankton that forms the base of the food chain. And so that's another possible explanation for all these, strange fish die-offs and things like that have been reported. It's pretty scary stuff, but, people should be aware that this is, there's a very good possibility that this is happening, and that's why. Secondly, on the YouTube channel, I noticed there's a typo in the name. I don't know if you've tried to fix that or not. It says Global Squatch. I think the Skywatch one is actually open, so I might be able to help you register that if you want.
There's a typo in what name, are you saying?
In your YouTube channel name. It says Global Squatch. The Y is missing.
Interesting. I will... Oh, you are absolutely right. How did that happen? Okay, thank you for letting me know.
Yeah, so just a heads up, I might make it easier for people to find and search it. Another thing that I was thinking about is a year or two ago, you did a pretty brilliant deconstruction of Joe Rogan's sort of character assassination on the... was that Dane Wigington or Michael Murphy or somebody that was... he had on as a guest discussing...
He had Michael Murphy on there, and he tore Michael Murphy apart, made him look ridiculous on the Joe Rogan.
Exactly, yeah. But no, for other people that haven't seen that, that's a really good episode. You should probably play it from the archives.
Okay, so
that kind of leads me into my next...
Well, let me help people get there. If you want to go to our YouTube channel and watch, it's called Joe Rogan. Well, that was his show. Is What Happened to Joe Rogan? You want to see that? Look in our archives. Go to globalskywatch.com. Go to Global Skywatch radio link right there. Look at our video feed. You can see me showing you right now. And you'll come to this page, which is the Global Skywatch radio page. The archive link is right down here. archive of previous shows. And here's the archive. What you can do, here's a quick thing to do. A lot of people, if you want to search through these shows quickly, press Control F, F like find, on your keyboard, and it will bring up a little search window. All the browsers use the same key combinations. So Control F, and just do a search for Rogan, R-O-G-A-N, and it will bring you right down to what happened to Joe Rogan. Click on that link. Here's the link to go to the page. Audio and video is here. In fact, there's Michael Murphy right on the front. They made Michael Murphy look ridiculous. Joe Rogan was a fake truther. He's acting like a truther. And this is what they do. They get people to follow somebody, and then they will disinform the group of people who have become that follower about the most important issues. They did this with Jessie Ventura as well. Jessie Ventura has done all kinds of brilliant work on these lesser subjects that aren't nearly as important. And then when he covered chemtrails, he had Keith on there, or Ken Caldera, and completely debunked geoengineering chemical aerosol spraying, completely debunked it. Why? Why? You can't take the position that it was because of lack of information or ignorance. You just can't. It doesn't fly. Anybody who does any amount of research, I mean, you've seen the research that Jessie Ventura did into all of the other programs, all of the other subjects, and they did quite well in many of them. You can't look at geoengineering or chemical aerosol spraying for more than a couple hours without believing it's going on and having some amazing evidence. You've got chemicals on the ground, you've got photographic evidence, you have the animal die-offs, you have white bark syndrome, you have white nose syndrome in the bats, you've got the reproductive issues in elk and deer, and it goes on and on and on, and so many of these have been linked to aluminum. Where's all this aluminum coming from? You can't do it, but that's what he
Russ,
did.
If I
go ahead.
Interject just on that point. I mean, it's possible that Jessie Ventura is just not emotionally capable or prepared at this point in time to accept the ugly reality of it. And that's kind of what I find again and again. I'm coming back to the psychology of breaking through the barriers and the walls and how to really reach people. And I think it's very important to make that emotional connection, because like it or not, I've come to the conclusion that most human beings, maybe 10-15%, operate sort of on a hard-nosed logical basis. Of course, I'm like to think of myself as that, but I also have my emotions too. But
what percentage are you saying?
I'm just throwing out 10 or 15% because
that's probably pretty optimistic, actually. But go ahead. Yeah.
You'll get. I mean, I've had so many of these kind of discussions in other fields of debating ideas of freedom and the liberty movement, etc. And time again, I could, if I'm overpowered, basically what I've learned is that you can try to overpower somebody with your superior logic and facts and figures and everything like that, but it doesn't really matter. They're just going to shut down and throw up crazy defenses, and you're not. You may actually even be hardening that person's resolve to not accept whatever idea it is you're trying to get across, which is kind of the sad truth. They'll be even more embattled and kind of digging in their heels than before they even spoke to you. So you got to be. I'm still learning how to do this myself, but it's important to not go I'm going to overpower you with my logic and facts, because I just rarely, unless you know somebody's totally left brain and is really into reason and
and that's quite rare today. I mean, I think that's a really good point. Yeah. But today people don't, and not just today, I think this has been going on for a long time, but people will be attracted to you and your belief system and your understanding when you when you show them kindness, when you show them consideration. It's so much more emotional than it is logical. The logic comes later, and it doesn't always run very deep. It's so much more an emotional issue.
Also, just being a stand-up person and a good person, that's going to enhance your credibility. So, did there something else you want to add on that, or can I move on to my?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so that kind of reminded me of, I came across a thread the other week with Mick West of contrailscience.com fame, and there's an interesting thread in there from a few years back when David Kennedy, who's a dentist.
And in the future,
San Diego
just so you know, we don't say those websites on the show. We just say contrail blah, or we say meta blah. We don't even want to give them the websites because they're full of lies. But go ahead.
All right. Well, I mean, basically the point I'm trying to make is that if you examine the thread where David Kennedy brings up the fluoride, water fluoridation issue, and asks him a question point blank, what dose do you think is acceptable for an infant to have of fluoride? And this is a topic, and Mr. West and his sort of, cronies or whatever you want to call them are not really well versed in, right? And so David Kennedy knows it inside and out. So it was really interesting to watch how him and his friends responded and the sort of tactics that they use to try to deflect and deny. And basically Mick West's strategy when asked this question, which he refused to answer, is that it was a rhetorical device. So he was not going to answer it. So if you guys are kind of interested in digging into how these people operate and their rhetorical methods, that thread is a good example of some of the, in my opinion, are kind of dishonest debating tactics. So moving along, so I covered the
and when there is no content, that's all they do is dishonest debating tactics. I will tell you. Let me just tell you about Mick West and Meta Blah and Contrail Blah websites. I will tell you my experience with them is I did the very first radio show that I did. The very first Global Skywatch radio show was not recorded, unfortunately. I wish it was, but it was not recorded. We had technical problems because the phone console didn't work properly, and here's what happened. One of these guys called in who work with those debunking websites, and somebody called in and said, we just need to shoot the planes down. That's what they said. And Dane came back and said, I know we're all frustrated. I know that we've been hit over the heads, and this is such a frustrating fight, and we just feel such frustrating. I mean, we all feel that way. He used the frame, we all feel that way, referring clearly to saying that we're all frustrated. We're all tired and we're all frustrated.
Right, he took it out of context
and
tried to make it like everybody.
What they did, this is what the kind of liars that these people do over on these websites, is they said that Dane said, after the guy said, we need to shoot the jets out of the sky, Dane said, we all feel that way. That is the kind of lie that they tell over there. Then they lied about me because I said, when we talk to people, sometimes I was talking about different methods or modalities of talking to people at work. And I was talking about, mainstream media uses a lot of sometimes fear-based marketing, like, do you have pests in your home? Do you know that mice can cause this disease and that disease? And this is fear-based marketing. And what I mentioned is that when we tell people the truth about how dangerous this is and how harmful it is, it kind of mimics that. It's kind of like what mainstream media does or large corporations do in fear-based marketing. And they took my comment and they said that I said that we need to instill fear in the public through fear-based marketing. And so they twisted my word. I can't remember exactly the words, but it was really twisted way of making what I said look bad when I was really saying what type of marketing it refers to. So I just want people to know these are the kind of people we're dealing with. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was my whole point of bringing up that thread. It was a totally different subject, and you can kind of see how they act when they're confronted with somebody who is well-armed with facts and very on the specific domain knowledge, and they aren't, and what kind of tactics they use. I just think it's kind of indicative of their character and the way they operate. But enough about those turkeys. So I did see the Reda Shasta City Council, where a bunch of people from, with Dane Wigginton, et cetera, got up and spoke, and that was really kind of inspiring. I encourage everybody to go find that on YouTube. Maybe you can show people on your site or put a link or something in the show notes.
Absolutely.
So getting back to this thing about the psychology of chemtrails, I found another author. His name is Michael David Morrissey. He's an English professor, I think, over in Germany, and has been an expat for 30, 40 years. So I was kind of researching some conspiracy theory stuff or whatever, and he's written a book. It's like an e-book on Kindle called The Transparent Conspiracy. And basically the premise of the book is that the government wants us to know. He says specifically, he argues there's major value from the government point of view in disclosing a limited amount of information of government culpability in atrocities such as 9/11. He called it transparency theory. That's his title, The Transparent Conspiracy. He says the CIA has long recognized that telling part of the truth is the best way to lie. They even have a term for it. I'm just quoting from a book review right now.
Sure. Right. This isn't
White
you
propaganda.
encouraging people to do this.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Morrissey argues that for the government to brazenly commit criminal acts can be quite effective in demoralizing and alienating the tuned-in segment of the population that fully comprehends the corrupt nature of our government institutions. So, again, this is just sort of my quest for understanding of how things work. I thought this was pretty profound. So if people want to check it out, it's called The Transparent Conspiracy, Essays and Poems, mostly on 9/11 by Michael David Morrissey. So in one of these other articles by David Morrissey, he talks about this guy, or he mentions an article by a psychologist, I'm assuming, by the name of Bruce E. Levine. There's an article posted on Alternet that kind of touches on this same sort of phenomenon. And this is very important because we see this thing every single day when we try to approach somebody about something like chemtrails or geoengineering, which is the largest freaking, in your face, because it doesn't really get more in your face than painting the entire sky, government conspiracy and crime that's ever been known to man, as far as I'm concerned. So it's important that we kind of collectively understand how the mind works and how people respond to these types of things. So again, back on this other article that this is Michael David Morrissey linked to in one of his other essays online. He says that the title of this is "Are Americans a Broken People? Why We've Stopped Fighting Back Against the Forces of Oppression." The subtitle is "A Psychologist Asks, Have Consumerism, Suburbanization, and a Malevolent Corporate Government Partnership so beaten us down that we no longer have the will to save ourselves?" Okay? Does this anybody relating to the title of this article? So I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's an interesting idea that explores, can people become so broken that the truth of how they're being screwed do not set them free, but instead further demoralize them? Has such a demoralization happened in the United States? Again, everything here just resonates with me because of the way that I see people react when you try to, bring up chemtrails or even kind of clue them into it. And a few other parts of this article, I'll just quote unquote. Can anything be done to turn it around? He explores whether or not people have become so broken that the truth to set them free, they don't set them free, or they. I'm sorry. Let me just start again. He says, can people become so broken that truth of how they're being screwed do not set them free, but instead further demoralize them? And he says, yes, it is called the abuse syndrome. How do abusive pimps, spouses, bosses, corporations, and governments stay in control? They shove lies, emotional and physical abuses, and injustice in their victims' faces. And when the victims are afraid to exit from these relationships, they get weaker. So the abuser then makes their victims eat even more lies, abuses, and injustices, resulting in victims even weaker as they remain in these relationships. So does knowing the truth of their abuse set people free when they are deep in these abuse syndromes? No. For victims of the abuse syndrome, the truth of their passive submission to humiliating oppression is more than embarrassing. It can feel shameful, and there is nothing more painful than shame. When one already feels beaten down and demoralized, the likely response of the pain of shame is not constructive action, but more attempts to shut down or divert oneself from this pain. It's not likely that the truth of one's humiliating oppression is going to energize one to constructive actions. Again, does this sound like something that you see in people when you try to talk about chemtrails? And then he asks, does it happen in the U.S., yada, yada. Basically, so I think to a large extent that's what we're dealing with, is exactly what this guy talks about in this article. And I've heard a great nickname for it. It's called battered citizen syndrome. And it's just the people, like, no matter how much abuse and lies and crimes that are committed by the government, they keep making excuses for their abuser and their oppressor. And you're like, why are they doing this? What? And I think the sad truth is, like, I met a woman years ago when I was doing a side job, and I went to fix her computer, and she just started opening up to me about all this stuff, and it turns out her husband beat the crap out of her, and all these other things. And she was a really sweet lady, and it made me so sad. It was just like, what happened to you when you were younger that you feel like this relationship is the best that you can do and that you won't leave it, you know? And she had 2 young kids with this guy and everything, and I just see so many parallels between the behavior of people in the U.S. and maybe globally when confronting these scary things like geoengineering, like engineered climate change, like the surveillance state. Okay, so anyways, if people are interested in the psychology and want to dive into it, I highly recommend that article. So enough about that. Did you want to make any comments or?
No, fascinating. I appreciate you sharing that. Go ahead. You're doing well.
All right. So you mentioned exploring some different, call conferencing software or whatever. I like this site called alternative2.net. So I just put on like live stream, and it gives you a bunch of alternative services that may be, worth checking out. So one of them I found was AnyMeeting. I don't know if you've tried that. And there's another one that's open source, but I don't know if it ties into the phone system. It's called Big Blue Button. And it's kind of like, I think you can host your own conferencing software. I believe that's...
Can I ask you a big favor? Would you email those to me?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, yeah, I'd appreciate that.
Because I think last week's show, you brought up the idea of kind of setting up a robo call server that would just automatically dial people and to get, the word out about chemtrails, and it wouldn't be that expensive to set up. And I'd love to help out with a project like that. I'm not even sure these days if you need the physical PC, unless you just want to like base it out of your house and get a good old landline with like say unlimited long distance in the United States. But yeah, that's a great idea. I don't think that, I don't know, I'm a little skeptical like these people at the city council are really going to do much for us, and to me it smacks too much of kind of begging people for freedom or begging people to act on our behalf.
I agree. It's not going to happen. I mean, we can't, these people are not going to serve us until there's enough of us that they're fearful of what's going on. So I hear what you're saying, and I agree with you about...
put pressure on them.
Exactly. And
you need numbers, too. You need to... Go ahead.
No, and I was going to say that those people, we've got some noise on the line here. Are you still there? Oh, I think I may have... You still there?
I think you just unmuted me.
Okay, there you are. Yeah, we're getting some noise on another line. Don't be offended if I mute your line. Keep listening. You're still online with us. I just need to mute it because we're getting some feedback here. Yeah, I agree with you about we just need to get the numbers to make these people serve us. And about the project about having the PC call out, kind of like a telemarketer, but call people with this information. I think this is a great idea. We need you. If you want to participate in this, email me. Say, yes, I'd like to be part of that. When we get enough people, we'll need a coordinator, and we'll put this together and make it happen. And wouldn't it be great to have this happening in multiple locations at the same time? So please contact me if you're able to be part of or interested in finding out more about having a machine or a service make telemarketing calls to the public simply to notify them about this issue and send them to somebody's website or some place where they can learn more. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so, earlier the caller, Kathy, mentioned about, I can't remember the exact topic she was talking about, but essentially we talked about the managed opposition and kind of, who's pulling the strings.
Controlled opposition, controlled regulation. Yep.
I'm talking on a more global macro scale, like on a national level. And there's some great books by a guy named Anthony Sutton. One of them is called Wall Street and the Bolshevik Revolution, and another one's called Wall Street and the Rise of Hitler. I haven't read them yet, but I've heard them talked about quite a bit by Richard Grove from Tragedy and Hope and the Corbett Report and some of the people in those kind of circles. And essentially, Wall Street has been financing the enemy, the mortal enemy, the communists, and had a hand in ensuring the success of the Bolshevik Revolution, sending arms to the Soviet Union when it was about to be defeated by Hitler in World War II, sending 600 shiploads of arms to Red China, at the end of World War II to help out the communists. I mean, there are so many instances, if you dig into some revisionist history, of how the sort of banking elite, banksters or whatever, have been financed. They thrive off of conflict and warfare and bloodshed. That's how they're making their money hand over fist. And I just wish more people had a better understanding of that. You know, next time they start beating the war drums and try to whip us into a war frenzy, you know, that's usually by design, and they're usually playing both sides of the conflict and making money off of it.
Right.
You know, there are plenty of Ford factories in Germany and the Soviet Union, or well, more specifically Germany, that mysteriously escaped the Allied bombs, you know, during the entire course of the war. Why is that? Well, there's a lot of corporate investment in the Third Reich that by American firms and Wall Street a lot of people aren't aware of. And same thing with the Soviet Union. You know, there's a lot of Wall Street investment building up their industrial infrastructure after the Bolshevik Revolution in the 30s and the 40s, and you know, basically giving technology transfers and capital and know-how to mass murderer Joseph Stalin that ended up killing, I don't know, you know, 30 million plus people. So, you know, obviously this is not something that is really extensively covered in the public school system. So,
obviously not.
Yeah, but people are interested in that. Check out Anthony Sutton. Also check out James Perloff. He just came out with a book called, I have it on my shelf over there. It's called Truth is a Lonely Warrior. Great title. And he talks about a lot, you know, delves into those same kind of subjects. Basically every war has been started by a false flag attack and yada yada. So, but Kathy was right on in that, you know, nobody's going to come save us. We have to take action ourselves and step up. You know, the false hope syndrome is a dangerous trap, and it's, you know, we don't want to fall into that because it's going to be up to you and I and other people that care to take action on our own and not wait for somebody to come rescue us.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I guess the last thing is the secret chemtrail pilot speaks video that came out in December. Have you seen that? Are you familiar with it? I think it was posted on Geoengineering Watch.
Is this the one from Dresden named Jens, or is it someone else?
No, that's the guy who's a whistleblower, said he installed the systems on the planes. This is actually like the person has not been identified. I don't know if he's been heard from since, but basically it was like there's a couple of messages that were forwarded through some intermediary and then read on, I think the Harp Report guy got a hold of this. I can't remember where it was originally posted. I have a bookmark here. Let me see what channel it's on. It's from December 8th, 2014, and that's on the Harp Report channel too. Called Chemtrail Pilot Speaks. But basically the theory put forward, and you know, again, this sounds pretty plausible, who knows, but that these pilots are, they work out of, they spray tri-strait areas, they have, you know, the more far out stuff is that they have secret bases that they constructed out in the middle of the ocean. But these pilots, so you know how you're talking about the different layers of conspiracy, and the people at the top kind of really know what's going on, then you kind of have a lot of dupes and other people down below that don't really see the big picture.
Yeah.
And a lot of this is accomplished through compartmentalization. So in the case of like pilots flying these tanker planes, if they are in fact mostly humans flying them and not, you know, remote control drones, you know, he says that they're basically, the mission that they're being told is that, you know, they're here to load up the atmosphere with these particulates, whatever they're spraying, as part of the ensuring the integrity of the air defense system. And if they didn't do this, then our enemies would be able to easily penetrate the air defense system and attack America, right? So
yeah, there's a reason I never reposted this, but go ahead.
Yeah, well, anyways, I thought that was kind of interesting, and he talks about how they're always moved around from base to base every few months, so they don't get too close to anybody, and et cetera, et cetera. But go ahead, your thoughts on the video.
Well, I have heard about that, and I read that. And I think that that's a very carefully constructed disinformation story. Why would we need air defense missile system or air defense system against?
No, wait. That's the lie that's being told to the pilots to trick them into thinking they're doing something noble.
Oh yes.
I never said that I bought that was a legit reason. I mean,
right.
That's obviously a fraud.
You're right. You're right. I remember now. That is the lie that some of the pilots are being told, and I think that yes, I remember that. In that, I accepted that as a very credible possibility. That is very possible. Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So that might be of interesting to people that are interested in sort of maybe the pilot perspective on that, and then. So I thought of some other techniques to kind of at least get people thinking or looking up. And one of the things I remember is like when I was a kid back in the 80s. Did you ever used to let you just lay out? We had a lawn, and I used to lay out sometimes in the grass and just look up and watch the clouds. And one of the things I remember from that is I never remember seeing a persistent trail coming out of a jet plane. Occasionally I see a plane fly by, and it had a short, the quality that I remember about it is that it was ephemeral. That's what made it kind of magical, that it would come out of the plane and then disappear shortly thereafter, and I would kind of chase, you kind of watch the plane cross the sky with this kind of sparkling, ephemeral, magical sort of unicorn trail coming out of the back, right? I mean, it was pretty cool as a kid. And now, I don't even know if these days if that was in fact water vapor or condensate. I'm just going to assume for the sake of argument that it is. Back in the mid '80s or whatever, and then it was gone. That was like that image is kind of seared into my brain as something that's very, very vivid, and so that might be something you can use to ask other people. It's like, hey, when you were a kid, back pre-1996 or 97 when they really ramped it up, did you ever lay on the grass and look up at clouds? And like, well, yeah. And did you ever see a plane going by? Most people are probably going to say, yeah. Well, what do you remember about it? What was it like? And see if you can kind of trigger and get them thinking about what the qualities were. I almost guarantee you nobody was seeing long trails come out that didn't go away and spread out and turn into clouds, linear clouds that covered the whole sky. But I think there's an attempt right now to kind of rewrite. It's the Orwellian rewriting of history and gaslighting to really, screw with people's minds and make them question their own memory of reality and history. And So another idea I thought of, and I'll let you have it after this. I'm done. Is that offer a gentleman's bet? Maybe $20 or something. You got a little skin in the game. Say, look, if you can find me a home video from the 80s or 70s or something with a plane going by and laying down one of these long trails that don't go away and turn out to a cloud, I'll pay you $20. And so you could get them digging into their family video collection, and there might be one or here, but I think it's pretty safe to say that they would be paying you $20. It might be. Then it's kind of like a game, right? It's not like, by the way, the atmosphere is being polluted and we might all die within about 15 years. It's like, hey, you want to make a quick $20, but
punch bug.
Sure, who doesn't want to make a quick? Yeah.
We're going to look for something
fun,
in
right?
our old photos in our video collection. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, just another couple ideas. Is laying on the, remember when you were a kid, laying on the grass, looking at the clouds and the planes, and then, hey, $20 in the home video to find me one of these long trails.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that idea. That's interesting. I will tell people, and I was on a radio show just before we started tonight for about an hour and a half, and I will tell you from my personal experience, I agree with you. I think they're trying to alter people's memories in the sense they're trying to suggest that seeing trails come out of jets was commonplace and always has been. They're trying to revise history. And I think some of the old photos that they produced, at least one of them is fake. When you do an analysis of it, and I won't go into why right now, but it really looks fake. It's not the small details. Photographically they did a good job. Conceptually they really messed up. But see, that's what most people miss. Anyway, my memory is...
Just to interject, I'm sorry. The whole beauty of the concept is that you're not relying. There's no fakery because it's their own archive of videos. They know it's not fake. It's been in their shelf and their bookshelf for the last 20, 30 years. Nobody's gone in there and edited that picture. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So we eliminate all those possible counter-arguments.
Yeah. No, I agree. And I think what we have to remember, though, and I think this is very careful, from my personal experience, I've never seen... When I was a child, and I know many of you listening have heard me say this before, but I'm going to say it again. I lived on military bases. I have airborne ranger in the family. Used to go to drop zones that's where they parachute for fun. I have flown across the United States a number of times. I used to go from Florida to New York State, Western New York State, every year in the summertime. I've driven four corners. I've watched the sky all my life. I've collected pictures since I was in elementary school. I was very young. I collected pictures of jets and rockets. I assembled a large collection of pictures. I've been a sky watcher all my life. I have never, ever, one time seen a trail, long or short, come out of a high bypass turbofan engine. I suspect that those, I've met a handful of people who say that they have. You're one of them. I suspect that the spraying may have been going on for a long time. And I say this, there's maybe one of two possibilities.
I don't deny any of that, but I'll tell you what, I mean, the long persistent trail and linear clouds is a whole new thing that is much more blatant and obvious than ephemeral.
Absolutely. The only
that dissipates, right?
Absolutely, but the only catch we run into is they are turning them into short trails now, and they're flying at higher altitudes. I saw this first in Jamestown, New York. They spray, for those, you might have heard me say this before, but they were bombing us every day. There was a 4-day break where there was no spraying, and then on the 5th day, all trails were high altitude, non-persistent. Sudden change. I've witnessed this 3 times. Second time, moved to Maine in 2008. April 8th, I think, is when I got here, 2008, if I remember the date right. Hit hard for a couple of years. All of a sudden, overnight, they blanked out the sky. They used to blacken the sky to the point where 2010, I think it was, the the Bangor Globe ran a article saying it was the dimmest summer in recorded history. They didn't mention anything about the fact it was caused by jets. The next year, overnight, one day, it all stopped. They all started going at high altitude, non-persistent trails. There would be some persistent trails here and there. Some here and there. And of course they have to have some here or there because they've been saying this is normal for years now. So how can they stop them all of a sudden without any? But the day-to-day spraying, the scheduling was the same, but the trails went from long to short. I moved to Philadelphia in 2014 and spent 2014 there, a large part of my time in Philadelphia. And when I first went there, it was a war zone. Anybody who's looked and paid any attention to the sky will attribute to, back me up on this. It was a war zone. In the middle of 2014, the same thing happened. All of a sudden, instead of blanketing the sky, I mean, you would stand outside in Philadelphia and you would count 20, 30, 40 trails at any given time throughout the day. In the middle of 2014, it all stopped. It didn't all stop, I shouldn't say that. But all of a sudden, all the regular spraying was high altitude, non-persistent trails with a few persistent trails on a few days of the month. A few days of the month it'll look bad. 6, 7 days a month, maybe 8 days a month. They'll still have quite a few trails in the sky. Nothing like it was before. So anyway, I'm just drilling this point in so people understand that they are hiding this from the public and they are making the trails non-persistent, and then they're telling us that these non-persistent trails are naturally occurring water vapor, and I can tell you from the smell and taste they aren't. I can tell you the descent time, and this is part of what they're trying to sell to the public. So we have to be real careful. And some of the non-persistent trails we may have seen in the 80s and 70s, I think are in likelihood very early test programs. And I believe this because these types of engines, the high bypass, and I even believe the low bypass turbofans, whether they're high or low bypass turbofans, they don't produce trails. The only exception would be something like the SPAY 512 engine, which is a water injection, and under the right conditions at the right time, they may at high altitudes emit a very, very faint vapor trail, but these aren't even in production anymore. They're rare. There's only about 50 in use on the BAC 111s in Europe. So, perhaps somebody's seen these, and the trails are so short and faint you probably wouldn't even see them from the ground. So I just need to say that because this testing, the infrastructure and the testing that had to go before the full implementation, the full global implementation of this program had to be huge. And so it's likely that 70s, 80s, and when people get sick, a lot of times people get sick in an area all at the same time, and the mantra was, oh, it's going around. And here we've seen spray days when a certain type is sprayed, that is when everybody in the area gets sick. Well, that was happening 20 years ago. So without getting too much into it, it's very possible, very likely, in all likelihood, that the non-persistent trails we've seen in years past were probably early spay programs for the most part. And we've even had one whistleblower came out and said, I wouldn't be so worried about what's being sprayed as much as what's being added to the spray to make them dissipate quickly. And I saw that and said, well, that's interesting. I don't know whether this is a legitimate whistleblower or not, but that's an interesting point that he's making. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the short trails and are they changing it, whatever, I mean, I would expect any sort of covert operation if they have the technology to make it short. I mean, it's kind of begs the question, well, I mean, what are the actual intended purposes? It is actually to block the sunlight? Is it just to make the atmosphere more conductive for use, like sort of electromagnetic ionizing weapons or technologies? Is it, I mean, there could be a whole number of motives that drive the agenda. Like some people say, well, the war is about blood for oil, or et cetera, et cetera. Well, maybe there's a handful or 6 or 7, agendas that coalesce to drive the war, for example. And I think a similar thing, might be going on with the covert, chemtrails, geoengineering, whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
So just on a final thought of that, you mentioned pollution. Another way to kind of maybe break through to people would be not to, you don't mention geoengineering at all, you don't mention chemtrails, whatever. You just address it for what it is. It's a pollution problem. Like, look at all this pollution that these planes are putting in the air. We've got to do something about this. That's something I think everybody could get on board with. And then you avoid all the other sort of trigger words and things like that that are going to raise the defenses. And be like, why is visibility dropped from, good visibility according to FAA, dropped from 40 miles to 10 or whatever it is today? Isn't that kind of alarming? Like how much
I hear what you're saying, though.
You can totally see it.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, though. I think the problem with that is they're going to say it's harmless water vapor, and then they've already got the cover stories worked out because they say, well, all the aluminum is coming from industry, the mercury in the soil is coming from coal-burning power plants in China. If you don't say exactly what it is, I understand what you're saying. It's hard to get people on board with this because they don't even understand there's a global conspiracy. They don't understand the nature of the beast. And so to say there's global spraying and the governments are working together, it's 3 steps too far. But to say that it's, and I hear what you're saying, and I sympathize with, I have respect for what you're saying, but to not deal with it accurately for what it is and say it's a pollution problem, well, the EPA is already on board with that. Hey, we got a pollution problem, we're going to implement regulations, but it's not going to get rid of the problem. I think this is an opportunity to educate the public because this is not water vapor, and when you have your blood tested and you see barium and aluminum all over in your blood, in the soils, in your hair tests, you see stunted plant growth, then it points to a whole different beast. Not water vapor, not a pollution problem, but an intentional problem that is new. We didn't have these problems 20 years ago or 15 years ago. This onslaught of stunted plant growth, white nose syndrome, reproductive issues in the elk and the deer, the white bark syndrome, all of this stuff is new. So why is it new? Well, for the same reason the trails are new. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad you mentioned the blood test and the hair test because that's an actual fantastic hard evidence, and that's a personal interest to everybody, especially people that have kids. So I just want to ask you, where are some good places to go to get your blood tested for those metals and/or hair samples? I think the hair is probably the cheaper and maybe more accurate test, but tell me what you know about that.
I've got a few listed on the Global Skywatch website. If people have good suggestions, please email them to me at russ@globalskywatch.com. But I'll show you where to go. People who are watching the video stream, here's the Global Skywatch website. We have a huge section under resources. See this link right here? Bottom center column under activism, go to resources. And we have labs. Let me just go through those. Music. Printed literature, flyers, brochures, promotional items, labs right here. Here's where your labs are in this link if you're watching the video feed. Bumper stickers, DVDs, clip art, memes, maximum contaminant levels, units of measurement, alternative news sources, bumper stickers, clip art, clothing, contact information for media and government, DVDs, Earth monitoring, agriculture, atmospheric, earthquakes, cell towers, emergency services, scanners, flight tracking, geoengineering, HARP, internet pollution, radiation, radio, solar, traffic, weather, and so on. This list goes on and on about all of the resources we have. So please visit the resources section. And if you have suggested resources you'd like to see added to a section, just email russ@globalskywatch.com. But to answer your question, go to the lab section right here. And let me show you the page. Here's the page. We've got about 6 states, California, Florida, Idaho, Maine, Oregon, and Washington listed. I'd like to see a comprehensive list of labs here that have a good reputation for this. So I wish I could do better, but that's a good place to start. Go to our labs resources section, and if other people go on our Facebook group, and people there can probably offer some help as well.
Cool. All right, Russ, I'm out. Hey, keep fighting the good fight. It's been great talking with you, and I'll hang up and listen to the live feed.
Hey, you too. Thank you so much for all the content you've contributed. I appreciate you calling in so very much.
Yeah, you bet. I hope I'm not boring people to tears, but I want to share. I was excited about sharing some of this stuff. So
no, very good, unique information.
Keep the calls shorter and shorter.
No problem.
Right.
Very unique information. I love what you've got to say. I appreciate you calling very much. That's good. That's good. I mean, we need people like you to call in. So thank you so much. Have a good night. Okay, we've got we've got more people in the console who have called in. If your phone is muted, don't worry. I still know you're there. Kim, I know you're waiting by. Looks like you're not standing by right now. Kim, call back in on Skype, and I'll put you on. In the meantime, let's take one of the calls. I'm going to unmute your phone. We've got a couple people on here. I'm going to unmute a couple phone lines. If you want us to talk, speak up now, and let's hear from you. Go ahead, callers. All right, who do we have there? Go again. We got kind of a mangled signal. We'll try again. Callers on the console, if you'd like to call in. Oh, we scared somebody away. They just hung up. All right, I think that's... is that Gary? We're getting mangled audio. I'm sorry about that. Kim, if you want to call us back, maybe it's too late. I'll keep my eye on Skype. If you call back in, I'd like to put you on. Gary, if you're trying to talk, the audio's all mangled. Anyone else on the console want to speak up? And I want to tell everybody, while we're waiting for somebody to speak up, if you want to talk, I would love to get into the deeper issues. I know it's already 10, almost 11. Wow, time goes fast. Eastern time. What is going through the minds of these people? Why are they doing what they're doing? Are they Satanists? Are they Luciferians? Why is the Catholic Church named their telescope Lucifer? Why do presidents bow to the Pope? These are all interesting questions. What do they have to do with geoengineering? Why is the president of Iran making references to occultic beliefs and ideas? Did you know about that? Is he one of them? Then why are we almost at war with Iran? Is it a show? Is there a war for resources, or is it a war that is for the intellectuals to spread, to make the people believe that that there's war? I see Kim in the chat. I'm going to give her one last chance to call in. If she'd like to, you can go on now. I'm sorry, Kim, that it took so long. So sorry about that. I would love to have had you on here. Anybody else who's in the console want to speak up, you're welcome to real quick. But I'll wait for Kim a second. If you want me to talk about this...
Is it any better?
That's much better. Is this Gary?
Yeah, I had to take my Bluetooth. I guess it's messing it up.
Yeah, Bluetooth isn't working so well. All right, Gary, what's up? And Kim, if you want to call in, love to hear from you. If you've got to go to bed, that's okay. I understand. No problem. So what's up, Gary?
Oh, okay. I posted that event on your timeline and on Global Skywatch on Facebook page.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
Chemtrails Global Skywatch webpage, I mean.
Thank you. Let me make a note in my to-do list to put that event up.
Can you see it?
I'm not looking right now. I will look at it after this show's over, and I'll take care of it then.
Yeah, I read it. She's trying to do a bi-weekly or something and have people do one in their area if they can't make it to, to one or to hers. She said that for people to do one every, 2 weeks to, like show up and stuff. Because she's saying that our events that we're doing is not putting a dent in getting this program, the geoengineering stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
She wants us to have one, have
Excellent.
more, have events every month. Something like what Kelly was doing, in San Francisco.
Yeah. Do you know what's up? Do you know what's up with Kelly? I've been thinking about her a lot lately, wondering if she's still doing it or what's. Do you know anything about what's going on?
Well, actually, I don't see her in her Facebook page. I don't know if she closed it or not.
Okay. Yeah, she
one
was.
of her friends.
Go ahead.
Oh no, one of her friends says that she hasn't been coming to the San Francisco protest. That's when I asked. I said, "Have you seen Kelly?" She says, "Oh no, she hasn't been going to the San Francisco protest."
Okay.
I don't know if she has since I last talked to them. I'll ask to see because she was pretty. She did a lot of encouragement. She encouraged me.
Yeah, she was great. If you're wondering, I've had Kelly on the show many times. She was from I believe she was the founder of the San Francisco Skywatch group. Let me see if I can find her in our show archives. Let me do a page search. Control F. Kelly, and there we are. Kelly Dougherty, right here. Here we go. Yeah. She worked with San Francisco Skywatch. I'm not sure what she's up to lately. I've wanted to get a hold of her and see what's happening, but she was a joy to talk to. We had a great time when she was on the show. She was very encouraging. She was wonderful to talk to.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, I'll probably have to close up shop here pretty soon. I want to know what you all want to talk about. I appreciate the callers for contributing the content that they did. Gary, anything you want to wrap up with?
Well, not right now. I like that there was someone getting interested on that the phone calling thing for the geoengineering.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like the telephone automated calling.
Yeah.
Like to call people, like telemarketing.
Yes.
Yeah,
If anybody's interested, go ahead.
Yeah, I heard that guy that was talking before. He was interested. That's good that someone has heard the show. Are you putting this on YouTube?
Yeah, this is on YouTube. If you go to our YouTube channel, you can see the full archive of all the shows since the second one. The first one wasn't recorded, but the rest of them were. So they're all there on the Global Skywatch YouTube channel. You can get to that by going to globalskywatch.com and clicking our YouTube icon at the top of the page. But yes, I want to back up what you're saying. Kim, you're still in the chat room. Why don't you call in? If not, that's okay. But we'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, yes, if anybody's interested in that telemarketing system to get the word out, this is powerful. This would be an awesome way to do it. We can go to Global Skywatch. Please, somebody look into getting a billboard in your area. Go to the Global Skywatch website. Look at the video feed right now. Go to projects and go down to chemtrail billboards right here. And here, there's somebody here named Sherry, who's been on this show before, who will help you with the logistics of getting a billboard up in your area. So please go to projects and then chemtrail billboards and contact Sherry. Gary, any final words?
Yeah, Wes, can you put that on the on that section too for the telemarketing on your
yes.
On that
yes, gotcha. On that projects area. Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
on the project here. There you go.
Yeah.
That way people go to Global Skywatch can find it because I did the emails, but I would like for people who visit the website can look at the project page and see if they can see the
absolutely,
put that same information you wrote.
Yeah.
Put that
Yep.
You know that text you wrote, that full text you emailed
that's
me?
a good idea. Yep, I can put that text
Put that
there.
right there.
Yeah, good idea. That's what I'll do.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
You did. I mean, I couldn't have said it any better than you did. So I love that. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Yeah, Gary's talking about a write-up I did about the telemarketing project, who we would need, how it would work, how we'd need to coordinate it. Oh, Kim, you're calling. I want to answer the phone.
Okay, I'll wait. I mean, I'll put myself on mute.
All right, Gary, thank you for calling, buddy. It's good to hear from you. Thank you. I'm going to meet you one day. I'm going to go down and visit some relatives in Florida. I'm going to make time to meet you. Kim, let's get you on here, and let me see if I can get your audio. Go ahead and speak, Kim. Let me see if I can get your audio through, because you're coming through Skype, and I have never connected Skype to this audio system. So go ahead, give it a try. Okay, let me see if I can change my options to get your audio feeding through. Give me a second here, Kim. How do we do this? Let me give this a shot. Kim, go ahead. Try speaking again.
Hi there. Good evening.
All right. It worked. Wonderful. Kim, how are you doing? Kim, are you there? All right. Let me try. Excuse me a second. I've never hooked up Skype to this audio system, so let me see if I can do this.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Check 1, 2. Let me see if I can get you. Hang on there a second, Kim. Let me see if I can get you. Can you hear me right now?
Good. Let me just check and see if I have to mute the
check
show
1, 2.
or
check 1, 2.
If I'm going to get an echo. Can you hear me okay?
All right. Can you hear me now, Kim?
Yes, I sure can.
Awesome. You're on. How are you doing, Kim?
Oh, okay, good. Well, I just muted the show. I wasn't sure.
Yep. How's it going?
I was listening to Catherine during the first hour. She had a lot of really good motivation and encouraging people to just go out and try to
I don't hear
spread
anything.
awareness. Yeah, exactly. And Gary has that same motivation. I mean, he's been one of the most creative friends that I've got to know since I started getting involved in this. And it's those with the creative minds, I think, that are going to bring this cause really to the forefront. You know, right to the home fires. And like she was describing, there's different things that different people can do. I mean, you might not be that person that can stand on a sidewalk and hold a sign. You might be someone that can write letters. You might be someone that can print flyers. You might be maybe just a creative thinker, you know, like Gary's created a couple of groups where he's got some pretty good ideas going, and you know, he could just be that person that says, hey guys, here's these 3 projects. Let's try this and send it out to everybody, and then the people that want to go out and do it can do it. The people that can write about it can write about it. The people that can pass out flyers can pass out flyers. The ones that are good on the computer can share all of this. It's a collaborative effort to really bring awareness. And as for me, in the Global Skywatch Facebook group, we're getting a lot of new members. A lot of them are curious. Some of them, to be honest, are just there to cause trouble. And they'll toss anything out there for bait that they think that we're just going to eat it up. And we really need to try to consider what we're looking at for information, look further, dig deeper, decide if it's something you want to stand behind or not. And if you truly don't know the answer to the questions that you're being asked, be okay with yourself to say, hey, you know what, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know the answer to this. But I'll definitely keep my eyes open, and that's what I've been telling people throughout the day. A lot of new stuff is coming out, and some of it could be hoax, some of it could just be misinterpretation, maybe some confusion, or it could be credible. But as for me, I try not to stand behind things that don't have a really good source that I can find a resource to it, and you know, someone that's fairly well known or credible, at least within what we're doing for work. And I can definitely say, hey, looks like this is what this is all about. But on the same token, I can easily say, hey guys, I have no idea. This is not my area. I know about weather. I know about, doing protests. I know about events. I'm a photographer. These are my skills. So I can honestly say I don't know. But what I think is a good idea when you're dealing with people, whether it's family or friends, or if you're actually at a protest or you're what seems like the public, which is social media, and people are talking to you on Facebook or wherever you go, be all right to say you really actually don't know about whatever it is that they're bugging you about. But you can always look further. And some of the times where this is coming from is people that are truly curious, but sometimes it's coming from people that are just totally doing nothing but making trouble. Distraction, division, disinformation, three squared, three cubed. I mean, you can decide, how far you want to put your neck out. And so I'm lucky enough to have this experience to be able to work with so many people in such a large group, and that we get to see that learning curve. We get to see those that are curious, but we also see those that are just troublemakers. So I've had to learn to be humble and perfectly admit I honestly don't have any idea about this certain topic or this part of it. But I can offer what I do know, and I can learn more. So it's a little bit about, kind of assessing yourself and where you stand, what you know, what you want to learn more about, and when you're trying to communicate with the public. If you're that person, I mean, if you're the one that's on Facebook and you're not just reading everything, if you want to really engage with people and you really want to talk to people, these are some things that I would encourage for you to be able to try to think about before you speak up and, decide to start really conversing with people who are getting involved like that.
Well, we encourage people to go to the Global Skywatch Facebook group, and if you want to get there, just go to globalskywatch.com and click on the Facebook icon at the top of any page. That'll bring you right to our group. We have 35,000 members, and in a few days we're going to have 36,000. We've got over 800 people waiting to get in the group right now. It's the largest group of its type, and I'm not saying that out of any sense of pride or because I care how big it is, except for the fact that a lot of people are needed in order to make this change. I know I had George Barnes on here, the founder of Skyder Alert, a couple times. I interviewed him, and he said it's going to take 1 or 2 million people before this is going to be stopped. So I want people to be involved. We've got to get that 36,000 number up to 1 million, and we've got to do it in order to stop the spraying. And I'm passionate about this because I suffer every day. I think everybody suffers. I've seen people's sicknesses and illnesses modulated by the intensity of the smell and taste of this stuff in the air. What else you want to say, Kim?
Well, that's interesting that that's what your skill is. It's not a skill. It's I mean, you can call it anything you want. It's maddening to experience what you're experiencing, and for someone like me, I look at someone like you as that's a skill because it's a skill I don't really have, and it's like you're part of bringing the awareness because you can smell it, you can taste it. You're like, oh crap, the alerts are going off within your body, your mind, your alarms are going off, and you're saying, oh gosh, they're doing it again, and you can identify it, and then
yeah, absolutely.
Where I'm at, I see like psychological stuff going on. I see people flipping out. I see dogs barking inconsistently. I see babies crying. I see people in the street, like road rage going on, and all this stuff is going on, and I'm like, what is going on? So I go out and I look, and I'm like, oh gosh, the sky's a disgusting mess. And then I can, kind of tune in with you, and you're like, I'm smelling this. This is what I'm smelling. This is what I'm sensing. And so, everybody collaborating together and communicating is how we're going to bring critical mass awareness, I feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is part of the reason why I do what I do, because I'm one of the small percentage of people with the sensitive sense of smell and taste that does smell and taste this. It's very intense to me. I don't want people to think that I'm reaching or trying to imagine this. It is overwhelming. piercing to my sinuses. It tastes like you're spraying aluminum dust into my mouth. I have to wear a wet mask through most of the day in order to just function. So this is not some subtle thing, and I feel very obligated to tell the public about this, because if I didn't, I would be hiding my testimony to the public to help people know why maybe they are getting sick, why they are suffering, why they have aluminum, mercury, cadmium, lead, arsenic in their blood. Where is this coming from? Well, we have water tests from all over the world that are showing all of those elements very high, and dust tests that are showing all of those elements very high, and everybody's wondering, where is all this coming from? Why am I sick? Well, I want to.
Oh, yes.
I have to tell
and
people.
And you can make
this.
those connections. And I mean, I just went outside for a little while. I have 2 golden retrievers, and we have a yard area, but they still like to walk. And I started walking, and within less than 5 minutes, maybe 10, I'm sneezing like crazy. My eyes are watering, and I'm like, what is my problem? And for you get that warning ahead of time. You're like, oh no, and you can like, oh no, here it comes. You can smell it, and there it is.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's exactly right, and I have seen it modulate not only people's behavior, but their sicknesses, their illness, their tirednesses. That's not a word. Their episodes of being tired, I suppose you would say. Their moods. All of this is modulated by the intensity of the plumes. And what people don't realize is you can't see these plumes, but they move just like plumes of smoke that would be released from a jet, for instance, that comes down. You can't see them with your eyes, but I can tell when I'm driving into one. If I'm driving into Bangor, it'll get suddenly bad. It'll be within the period of a minute, like, oh, we're driving into a plume, and oh my gosh, I can smell and taste it's horrible. And then another 10, 15 minutes, we'll drive out the other end of the plume. And so to me, this has been a way of life since 2005. And I've seen it modulate people's behavior. I've seen it make people tired. I've seen it make people sick. I have seen the spray patterns. People who come, these debunkers or people who've contacted me through Facebook saying, I want to let you know that this isn't really happening and this is all psychological that you're smelling and tasting. You are absolutely crazy to believe that this is not happening.
Yes.
You're not going to convince me. I smell and taste this. This is overwhelming, overbearing. It has changed the course of my life. That is how much I smell and taste it. That is how much it ruins my day. So,
yep.
I got to stop
exactly
talking.
How it's helping, because you can combine that information with, I go out, suddenly my sinuses are completely inflamed, and then I can potentially reach out to you and you can say, yes, we're getting hit with this type, and then I can go to a different area and I can see people are, the ambulances are going by. And
that's another thing. During the worst spray events, I see the most ambulances. When there's really, I've been in Bangor at times when it was so bad I would be wearing my mask in the car, which I hate to do because it's kind of embarrassing, but I do it anyway when it's bad enough. And those are the times when you see 2 or 3 ambulances in just one short trip into Bangor. And you ever notice that Bangor, the main medical center in Bangor, is packed? When I had my heart attack in 2011, I couldn't get in. I went to the emergency room, but they didn't have a bed open. That's how packed it was.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I mean, business is good. They're refinishing, they're
Where
rebuilding.
I live, we're within, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're within 6 blocks of one hospital and 4 blocks of another. And one of the hospitals where I'm at, they have a helicopter for serious emergencies. And when it's really bad and everybody's stressed out, I mean, I can see the anxiety in my dogs. I can see hyperactivity in my child. I can see people outside, like a guy could be walking across the street, a car might begin to take a turn, wait for the person to completely get across the street, and then right before they're all the way across, the car will start their turn, and they'll safely get into their lane that they're driving in, and the guy walking will turn around, just flip right out, and just start yelling, start screaming. The guy's like, looking at him like, dude, I was safely going by you, and then he gets out, and then they're fighting, and
Absolutely,
it's
yeah.
it's mostly on heavy spray days, or if it's not a heavy spray day, it's a really strong humid day, headaches, a lot of physical and neurological symptoms. I mean, everybody's going to start correlating all of this information. They're going to put it together, and they're going to figure it out. Something is happening, and we really do need this to be looked into.
Yeah,
we want it stopped, but we want it fairly looked into, at least. I mean, I can't fund investigations. I'm just a normal consumer, and most of the consumers that are excited about this, I mean, we're not federally funded. I'm not a university, and I'm not a big corporate conglomerate. I can't pay for air testing and all of these other things, but I can at least share what I'm experiencing and gather my information and make it known in the very least.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't stress how much I see people's moods modulated. And it's not just so simple like saying, oh, the air is bad, people are acting this way, the air is clean. There are different types. Like the acetone type makes people ornery and fight. And in fact, we got hit with the acetone type today, which is kind of wild because they've been spraying another type. The acetone type hasn't been around for a while. They backed that off months and months ago. And they've switched to what I call the model cement glue type. That is now the daily type that is sprayed most often. But today we got nailed with the acetone type in combination with the model cement glue type too, but the acetone type. But the acetone type typically made the kids ornery and fight and people aggravated and grumpy. The metallic chemical type, and if you want to find these, I'll show you where to find them. The metallic chemical type typically made people tired. They'd yawn. They just start becoming zombies. If you want to find this information on chemtrail types, go to globalskywatch.com. If you go to the home page, you'll see this link in the bottom in the left sidebar called My Chemtrail Story. Click on that, and right down here I have a link called Chemtrail Types. And I have written an extensive article detailing all of the types: salty metallic, iron, aluminum, drywall, dust, acetone, swamp water type, pharmaceuticals, sulfur, blunt metallic, metallic chemical, pesticide, freshly cut grass. Has all the makings of phosgene gas, but I don't know. Dryer sheets, fabric softener type, and the model cement burnt plastic type is the newest and now the most commonly sprayed type. So if you want to know about types, please go there. Kim?
Yeah, I think that it's all very, very important information. I mean, people are paying attention. There's a lot happening all at once. I mean, usually you don't experience sinus symptoms in the middle of summer. You might get them right in the spring, or you might get them cold and flu season, but in the middle of a summer day, you go outside and suddenly you're crying and your nose is running. It's like, what's that all about? So, but then again, you have to be somewhat already awake. You need to be paying attention to your body. You need to be paying attention to the surroundings that you're in. And somebody in the chat room was pointing out that a lot of people are kind of dumbed down because they're on antidepressants. And what antidepressants will do is it'll numb you, so to speak. It's made for that. If you're too hyper, you're too curious, you're overwhelmed, you're taking in too much at once, can't control your thoughts, all these different kind of things can be happening. Take a drug, happy pill, slows down your thinking, calms you down. It makes the world, as horrible as it is, seem a lot better. But the fact is, you're seeing what's really happening. There was a lot going on. That rabbit hole goes very deep. And like Russ was saying earlier, you were saying that, I mean, there's some really good archived shows that go quite a ways back where if people really want to dive deep, they really can. There's just a lot happening. But
yeah, I want to encourage people.
You just got to try to get healthy and stay in touch with everyone and see what's going on, really. Yeah,
let me encourage you. If you want to get into the deep rabbit hole, what is going on a spiritual level, what is going on in the heads of these people who are doing this? I did a series called How the World Really Works. And I'm going to be covering this stuff starting next week because we're getting more and more requests for it. People want to understand the deeper side of this. And there's a lot of shows, there are a lot of shows out there that are covering the fact that it's happening, the evidence, and all of that. And we will cover that as well. but there are very, very few, if any, people covering the spiritual side of it, what these people believe and why they profess in their inner circles that they're doing it. If you want to see that series of shows called How the World Really Works, go to globalskywatch.com and go to the home page. And down here we have featured, important articles. Click on that. And in the left sidebar, How the World Really Works is right here. And we have the dark forces behind geoengineering, How the World Really Works, set parts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and then we have some related links at the bottom. So these are long programs. Some of these are hours long. I encourage you, if you really want to know this, get into it, or just start listen to our show next week. We're going to be here every Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific on live stream. So just listen in, because next week we're going to start getting into the spiritual side, the intellectual side, and the mental side of chemtrails and geoengineering, what's really going on. Kim, any other thoughts before we call it a night?
I just think that because there's so much happening, I've seen some friends kind of disappear from Facebook because they got interested because they're interested in a certain cause. It might be beauty product testing on dogs. It could be saving the culling of dolphins in China or Taiwan. It could be, there's so much, and it's easy to get overwhelmed. But the thing is if your mind is starting to awake, and you're paying attention to your body, and you're paying attention to your mind, and you want to keep learning without being overwhelmed, get a notebook, or if you have a computer and you can write it down literally in a word processor, write your thoughts down as they come in, as they go out. Write your frustrations down, put exclamation points so you know what parts you're frustrated at, or smiley faces, or whatever you're doing. If you can, document what is happening as you're learning this information. Because there is a lot happening, and it would be one way to help you just kind of get a grip on things without giving up. Because we need as many people that care as possible, and that are willing to be interested in learning and be creative and open their minds. And I just think that that's one small tip that I wouldn't mind offering everybody, is to kindly write your thoughts down. You can share it with a friend, you can talk on the phone, but I really truly feel that writing them down with a pen and notebook or on your computer, whatever it is, just kind of gives you a perspective on what's really interesting you, what's frightening you, what you want to talk about next. And if you're going to meet up with us every Monday, maybe it'll give you some ideas on things you might want to talk about, or you can go to the Global Skywatch forum and post discussions there and come up with, maybe some brainstorming on things you want to work on. Just keep a notebook somewhere where you can keep these ideas, and it might help you a little bit with some coping and also with some learning of things.
Absolutely.
And good luck to everybody. I've been very thankful to listen to everyone all night. I've been a bit distracted. We do have some challenges that we're facing, and I just appreciate everything everyone had to say, and I'm very thankful to have had a chance to get to know such amazing friends.
Me too. I appreciate everybody who called in tonight. You are amazingly articulate and informed, and I love that you, and very much appreciate that you call in and share the information you have. Kim, you're the best administrator somebody could hope to work with. Kim, without Kim, we could not have our 35,000 member Facebook group. She tirelessly works, volunteers for free to keep it running smooth, along with our other administrators who are awesome. Kim works, just does the work of 5 people, and I really appreciate everything you do, Kim. Thank you.
You're welcome. In fact, I'm right now dealing with a troublesome issue on Facebook right now, trying to sort through it while listening to you guys. But I can do many things at once, and I promise I will keep my commitment to work with this cause and offer fellowship and support and kindness to and respect to everyone that's interested in participating and trying to bring some justice to our issues. And thanks for giving me the chance to be able to work with such awesome people, Russ. I appreciate getting to know you as well.
Thank you, Kim. And you won't ever commit suicide, right?
Oh gosh, no. And if you do, somebody better look my butt up because there'll be 2 hungry dogs waiting at the door.
That's right. Yes, you're not going to commit suicide. I'm not going to commit suicide. And I have at least 2 24/7 gas air monitors in my house, so there's not going to be a propane leak in here without at least 2 alarms going off. That's not going to happen. So if I end up missing, it's not of my own free will.
Yep.
And of course, we're referring to the tragic and maddening situation in Florida and a few other states where there are now, I believe, 10 doctors murdered and missing, 5 more missing, all connected to the GCMAF scandal, where they were, it's not really a scandal, they were importing macrophage activating factor, which is, we believe what's happening. I'll get into this next week. You need to hear the details if you haven't heard this. We did an interview with Richard Sachs on this. I did earlier this week. So go to my YouTube channel. Go to the Global Skywatch YouTube channel, and not mine, but the Global Skywatch channel, and look up the interview I did with Richard Sachs. And we talked for about 30 minutes explaining what happened with these doctors. Nagalase, the enzyme that there may be hard evidence coming up, we don't know yet, that nagalase enzyme is being found in vaccines. This enzyme cripples your immune system by deactivating the GCMAF protein, which cripples your immune system. At the same time, these vaccines introduce aluminum and formaldehyde and mercury and other ethylene glycol and other contaminants in your body. And these doctors may have known this or been on the verge of breaking this story. We don't know that for sure, but at least it is raising awareness about the GCMAF and the nagalase, and I hope that we can find out soon if this is really happening. Please pray for these doctors' families who have suffered. Dr. Gonzalez is one of the ones that I was personally aware of. His work, amazing work in cancer. He was very open about the corruption in FDA. He died in his wife's arms a couple weeks ago. I got the newsletter directly myself announcing this from his wife. He was interviewed by Mercola a couple years ago. We posted this on the Global Skywatch and the Orbis Vitae, O-R-B like boy, I-S, V-I-T-A-E.com. Orbis Vitae means circle of life in Latin. Orbis Vitae website. He had an incredible interview with Mercola. He's no longer with us. This kind of thing gets under my skin and makes me very angry, because there are murderers in this world who will murder for profit and to protect their income stream, and I just will stop talking because we can all agree how horrible that is. So please pray for the families of those doctors who have passed on or are missing because they cared enough to do dangerous work to bring the truth to light and to bring healing to their patients. There are doctors who don't care, and there are doctors who do care, just like every other profession. The difference between those who don't care and do care is absolutely huge. So I hope that those families will recover in as much as they can recover from this horrible thing that is happening, and I hope that those people connected will push for investigation, real investigation, and real accountability for this crime that's going on, that is, in my guess at this point, is probably covering up some very revealing truths about vaccines. So go to the Global Skywatch Facebook, YouTube channel, and look under the special event playlist for that interview with myself and Richard Sachs on the GCMAF scandal and the doctors, the dead doctors. So, Kim, thank you for being with us. I hope you call in every week, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the work that you do. It is very valuable, and it is making a difference in the world. So thank you, Kim. For the callers who called in tonight, thank you so much. You contributed so much awesome content to this show. Next week, I really want to get into this deeper. I really enjoy getting into the deep side of it. We can get into the numerology behind what's happening. We can get into the symbolism. We can get into the spiritual beliefs of the elites, why they do what they do, where they're receiving their commands. If you haven't heard this already, and I talked about this in that series, How the World Really Works, which is up on your video screen right now. If you didn't hear this already, you will be shocked to hear where the commands actually come from. Where are they getting their directives to do what they do? And we will talk about that next week, and anything else you want to talk about. If you have an announcement for an upcoming event, please call in right at the beginning of the show, and I'd like to dedicate 5 minutes for everybody to make quick announcements of what's coming up, so it'll be kind of like a video calendar. This is what I want to do, and if you know other people have events, tell them to call in, or call in and announce their event for them. In the meantime, if you want to know about events, go to the Global Skywatch Global Events Calendar. Go to the globalskywatch.com, click on Global Events Calendar here on the video stream that you're looking at, and the Global Events Calendar is full of events coming up in the future. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. We are talking about the largest crime against humanity in the history of mankind. People are suffering and hurting. People's lifespans have been shortened. There's a full-on disinformation campaign, debunking campaign, public unawareness campaign going on to keep people from knowing about this. And I sit here because I suffer. I almost died in 2011 from what I believe was barium toxicity, because barium steals potassium and will induce heart attacks. And that's the only thing they found wrong with me when I went in with my heart attack in 2011. The only problem they found was my potassium was through the floor. No explanation why. But guess what? Barium induces depleted potassium to the point that it is actually used in animal testing to artificially induce heart attacks. So we're going to go into that next week as well. Please encourage everybody you know to come join us. We're going to have a fast-moving, information-packed show. The last 2 shows, we've been a little laid back. We've taken callers. We've chatted. We're going to pick up the pace, and we're going to start packing information into these shows because time is short. I want to share one last thing with you before I go to give you a little taste of what we'll be talking about. Regardless of how you feel about spiritual matters, I'm going to share a couple things with you before we go. Just a few nuggets to warm you up for next week. This is a meme that's on one of my articles. In the Bible, in the book of the Revelation, chapter 18, verse 23. Are you ready for this? If you don't know about this already, Revelation 18:23 says, "For your merchants were the great men of the earth, for by your sorcery all the nations were deceived." If you look in the original language, we're going to decode those words and see what they really mean in modern English. For your merchants. The word merchants means a trader or wholesaler. What is a wholesaler in modern terms? This is a manufacturer. Somebody who sells things at wholesale is somebody who manufactures and sells goods at wholesale. So for your manufacturer industrialists were the great men of the earth. What does the word great mean? The word great does not mean good. It means powerful. For your merchants were the great, powerful men of the earth, for by your sorcery all the nations were deceived. For your merchants, these are the industrialist bankers, were the powerful men of the earth, for by your sorcery all the nations were deceived. Before I tell you what the word sorcery means, and some of you already know this, I want to tell you that this verse refers to the great deception that will come upon the world, that is actually upon the world right now, shortly before the second coming of Christ the Messiah. This is what the Bible talks about. And this is the tip of the iceberg, and this stuff is not being taught in the churches. And if you tune in next week, you're going to hear about it. And we're going to dive into this, and it will blow your mind if you're not familiar with it. This is just getting warmed up. This is talking about the great lie that will be told and believed by a majority of the people on the planet. And it's already filling the earth right now. And if you don't know what it is, you will walk into it and be completely deceived by it. This is why you have to know, and I'm going to tell you next week what the lie is, what the deception is. And I hope you join me, because I will be speaking very passionately about this. And the more I've studied this through the years, I've been at this for a long time, the more I've realized how important this information is, and that's why I share it, because it is a matter of life and death. So this is talking about the deception. How are the industrialists going, the powerful industrialists, going to deceive the nations into believing the great, what Paul calls the great lie? And what is the great lie? I'll tell you next week. For your merchants were the great men of the earth, for by your sorcery all the nations were deceived. Notice that this verse doesn't say by their sorcery. It's by your sorcery. Why does it say that? For your merchants, which means the industrialists, were the powerful men of the earth, for by your sorcery. Sorcery is the Greek word pharmakia. It is where we get our English word pharmaceutical. All the nations were deceived. How did the industrialists, these are the elites, okay, they are the industrialists, the ones that control industry and banking globally. They were powerful men. How did they deceive the nations? How did they deceive them? By dumbing them down with sorcery, with pharmakia. The word pharmakia actually means to drug or poison. We're going to get into this next week, and you see there's a little picture of sodium fluoride, chemtrails, vaccines, and pharmaceutical drugs. I'm going to give you one more, maybe two right now, just to whet your appetite for next week if you're interested in this kind of thing. We're going to talk right now about the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, verse 16 and 17. It says, the man, this is talking about somebody who's going to come on the world scene, and he's going to do something very dramatic in front of everybody shortly before the return of Christ. It says, this is Isaiah 14, 16 through 17, the man, remember this is shortly before the second coming, the man that made, this is the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness. He did a lot of things here, and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners. What does this mean in the original language? Earth to tremble. Think about this. This is the first phrase. This man made the earth to tremble. How does a man make the earth to tremble? What is a trembling earth? Is that not an earthquake? Is this not a man who has the authority to operate HAARP-induced earthquakes? What else could it mean? Because it says earth to tremble. He made the earth to tremble. It did shake kingdoms. The word shake doesn't mean physically shake. If you look up the original language, it means to shake from fear. Well, do you know that mercury is the fear drug? It induces fear in people. Do you also know that the rulership of this powerful person that will come on the scene shortly before the return of Christ induces fear into the leaders of the world? So he did indeed shake the kingdoms with fear. He also made the world as a wilderness. How do you make the world as a wilderness? Unless you're depopulating it. Because if it's not a wilderness, it's a city. And if it's not a city, what is it? Is this a direct reference to depopulation through chemtrails or vaccine-induced sterilization or other means? What else could it mean? He destroyed the cities. Even Obama has proposed the bulldozing of entire cities by his administration. This has been suggested. How are you going to bulldoze entire cities unless they're depopulated? Opened not the house of his prisoners. FEMA camps, prevalent today in the United States, going to hold people who do not fall in line with their beliefs. If you want to read more, a detailed article on this, please go to the Global Skywatch website. Whether or not, whatever preconceived ideas you may have about the Bible, there's a lot of disinformation going around the Bible. It is being slandered more than any book that I've ever seen before. I know the Bible. I've read it at least 15 times. That was of a few years ago, cover to cover. I know it pretty well. I don't consider myself a scholar. But I will tell you that the stuff you see on Facebook slandering God in the Bible are lies. And if you do not know that, then you are a child of the New World Order and you're ready to walk into what they have in store for you. Knowledge. You're going to have to know what is going on to avoid the trouble that is about to come down, and it's going to come down fast and it's going to come down hard. And I think it's going to come down pretty soon. I don't like to predict timelines because they have shifted in the past. But all things indicate it's coming soon. If you want to read this article, go to globalskywatch.com. Click on My Chemtrails Story down here in the left sidebar. And scroll to the very last article in the left sidebar. It's called Chemtrails in the Bible. This is a long article, not too long, but it talks about all the details of these end-time events that are happening right now. Do you know the Araba, which is the desert surrounding the Dead Sea, already has the prophecy in Isaiah 35 fulfilled right in front of your eyes, a naturally occurring event, not man-made, right now. And this was predicted by Scripture to happen shortly before the return, the second return of Christ. Evidence right there. Do you know that Isaiah 35 predicted that the Dead Sea would be split into two separate bodies of water? How did this happen? It's not going to happen in the future. It already happened. It happened 15 years ago. The Bible says this is going to happen shortly before the return of the Messiah. You're going to see things in your lifetime, I'm telling you, that no generation has ever seen. The way the Dead Sea split in two is its water level went down 70 feet. There was a cleft about 2/3 of the way down of land that now became above water, making the Dead Sea two separate bodies of water. The southern portion, Isaiah 35 says, will be given over to salt. Look online. Guess what the southern portion of the Dead Sea now is? Salt mines, salt flats. The northern portion will become a rich fishing ground. Do you know the salinity levels, for the first time in history, are declining to the point where soon fish and other life will be able to survive in the Dead Sea for the first time in history? Go read the Wikipedia article on it, and they will give you all the disinformation saying, oh, this has happened for a long time and these changes. No, what some people are saying happened is that one of the world's largest aquifers, which was discovered beneath the Araba, which is the desert surrounding the Dead Sea, broke through and is exchanging water with the Dead Sea, lowering the salinity levels. This was prophesied by Isaiah 35. And the desert is predicted. This was Isaiah 35 says, the desert will blossom. There will be pools of water there. And farmers, and I'm paraphrasing, farmers will grow. Very successfully, they will grow agriculture in that area, which is the deadest part on earth. Basically the deadest area on earth. This isn't going to happen in the future because it's been happening for the past 20 years. We are close. The Dead Sea, Araba, the desert surrounding the Dead Sea. Now, if you read Isaiah 35, it actually uses the word the desert will do this. The desert will blossom. The desert. If you go look up the original word desert, it's actually Araba, which refers to a specific desert, one desert in the world that's named Araba, which is the desert surrounding the Dead Sea. They're producing more per acre than in most agriculture areas in the world. Once you put water in that soil, it is so rich. Farmers are having a field day. Why is this happening? I'll tell you why Isaiah said it was going to happen. He said, God will prepare the land so that those who come from the southern parts to see, to worship, to see the Messiah, who will come in, set his feet down, and walk through the eastern gate of the temple, will have food and water along the way. I'm paraphrasing, but this is what it says, Isaiah 35. Preparing the land so that those people who travel will have provisions along the way. The land is prepared. It's being prepared right now. Next week, you're going to hear all about how, why, and what is going to happen in the near future. Thanks for sitting by with me. Thanks for fighting this fight. Do not remain ignorant about any of these things, because I will tell you this right now, and if you don't learn it now, you're going to learn it in the near future. The events that are happening right now are spiritual in nature, and you don't have any idea how true that is until I tell you next week how the elites get their marching orders from the mouth of the son of a man who delivered the marching orders. I will share that with you next week, and I hope you join us 9 p.m. Monday Eastern Time, 6 p.m. Pacific, Global Skywatch Radio. Have a blessed week. Stay strong and focused. Keep up the good work, and we'll see you then. Thank you all for joining us. Good night.